Chapter 2043. Convinced. It's him. Master Sea Dragon looked at Ning-Chi in astonishment. He didn't expect the champion of this year's Heaven's Chosen battle to be so terrifying. Even the third Ming Prince was sent flying with a single punch. There was one thing he didn't understand. According to the rumors, the champion of this year's Heaven's Chosen battle was no match for Yen Emperor Xingtian. He only managed to kill the Yen Emperor Xingtian and gained a lot of points. But Ning-Chi's combat strength didn't match the rumors at all. At this time, the demonic creatures around the Ink Sea reacted and wanted to join forces to overturn the Sea Dragon. Ning-Chi didn't give them the chance. With a flash of his blade, the demonic creatures at the advanced stage of the demonic human realm were all cut into pieces. Fresh blood flowed into the Ink Sea and mixed with the black seawater. The sharpness of the Dragon Slayer saber has indeed increased a lot. Ning-Chi was quite satisfied. With the addition of this demonic dragon pearl, the blade of the Dragon Slayer saber would be covered with a layer of demonic chi when he used it. This strand of demonic chi was different from ordinary demonic chi. Ning-Chi had tested it with his finger, and it easily cut through his skin. If someone used it to slash at Ning-Chi, he reckoned that even with the strength of his body, he would still be cut in half. Boom! The waves parted in a split second. The third Ming Prince poked his head out with a wound on his face. When he found that all his subordinates were dead, he looked at Ning-Chi with a trace of rage in his eyes. "What are you looking at?" Ning-Chi glanced at the third prince and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. The sin value of this group of demonic creatures was unusually high. After killing all of them, Ning-Chi obtained more than 200,000 dragon-slaying crystals, which was just enough for him to exchange for something from the dragon-slaying mall. "I'll tear you apart!" the third Ming Prince roared. The next moment, a huge whirlpool appeared under the sea dragon. The whirlpool expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. Soon, everywhere the demons could see was a huge whirlpool. The sea dragon was pulled towards the center of the whirlpool. Master Sea Dragon shouted and the sea dragon soared into the sky. In an instant, it was hundreds of meters away. Then, everyone looked at Ning-Chi, who was in the center of the whirlpool. He was already fighting with the furious third Ming Prince. Bang! "Little black snake, how does this punch feel?" Bang! "Is it powerful enough?" Bang! "Little black snake, don't force yourself. If you want to faint, just faint." Bang bang bang! The crowd was dumbfounded as they watched Ning-Chi land one punch after another on the third Ming Prince's body with his agile movements. Most of the third Ming Prince's attacks missed. Occasionally, his punches landed on Ning-Chi's body, but they did not seem to cause any damage. Prince Beixian's strength is terrifying. The rumors are indeed false. The demons of the Xingtian tribe even said that young Master Beixian didn't live up to his reputation and that he only got first place because he exploited a loophole in the rules. Now it seems that it's all bullshit. No matter how strong the Xingtian Yen Emperor is, can he be stronger than the third prince? If I remember correctly, the third prince of the Ming clan was a Heaven's Chosen of brother Xing Yan's generation. That's right, just like that. Beat that damned third Prince Ming. I can't believe he swallowed tens of thousands of devils. It would be best if he was beaten to death. The demons on the sea dragon were so excited that they couldn't help cheering for Ning-Chi. As for Master Hailong, he stood in the void and stared at Ning-Chi's figure, as if he was trying to determine the limit of Ning-Chi's strength. Ning-Chi didn't use the Dragon Slayer saber. He only relied on his fists to make the third Ming Prince wobble. The third Ming Prince almost fainted under the combined effects of his injuries and humiliation. He couldn't figure out why his opponent's strength was greater than his. Damn it, damn it! The third Ming Prince was furious. He raised his neck and let out a roar. At this moment, he saw a halo flying towards his head from the corner of his eyes. Just as he raised his neck, the halo wrapped around his head. In the eyes of the demons, it looked as if the third Ming Prince had stretched out his neck to catch it. "What's that?" A trace of panic flashed across the third Ming prince's eyes. Just as he was about to find out what was going on, the golden halo wrapped around his head tightly. At this moment, Ning Qi stopped all his movements. He put his palms together and murmured something in a low voice. Then, the third Ming prince felt a sharp pain in his head. The pain seemed to penetrate deep into his soul and marrow. The third Ming prince howled miserably and rolled around in the ink sea. The strange phenomenon in the ink sea gradually disappeared. Apart from the waves caused by the third Ming prince rolling around, the rest of the sea had returned to normal. What's going on? Master Sea Dragon's eyes were filled with shock and doubt. From what he saw, he could tell that the halo that Ning Qi had just thrown out might be some kind of demonic weapon. The third Prince Ming was screaming because of that demonic weapon. However, what kind of demonic weapon could make a full-circle human demon unable to bear it? Could it be an upper-grade demonic weapon? Thinking of this, Master Hai Long's expression became even more solemn. There was a hint of fear in his eyes as he looked at Ning Qi. "Stop chanting! Stop chanting!" With a loud bang, the third prince bounced out of the sea of ink in pain. When the demons saw his complete body, they all gasped. It was too big. The sea dragon, which could carry more than 100,000 people, was several times smaller than the third prince's body. "Transform into your demonic body," Ning Qi said calmly. After he stopped chanting, the third Ming prince immediately turned into a black ray and flew away. Ning Qi's lips curled slightly as he murmured a few words. Not long after, the third Ming prince turned around and flew back to Ning Qi. His body was transforming at a speed visible to the naked eye. He had turned into a pale-faced young demon that looked to be around 18 or 19 years old. If the crowd had not witnessed this scene with their own eyes, they would never have guessed that he was the incarnation of the nether snake. "Stop chanting, it hurts so much." The third Ming prince held his head with both hands and knelt down in front of Ning Qi. "This lower-grade immortal weapon that I exchanged for 200,000 dragon-slaying crystals, pseudo-band, is really useful." The corners of Ning Qi's lips curled slightly as he looked down at the third Ming prince. "Are you convinced?" "I'm convinced. I just hope that you don't recite it anymore." The third Ming prince heaved a sigh of relief as the pain disappeared. He looked at Ning Qi with a pale face. However, there was still a hint of hatred deep in his eyes. "It seems like you're not convinced." Ning Qi smiled and continued chanting. Chapter 2044. Mount. Ning Qi kept chanting, pausing once in a while before continuing. After more than 2 hours, when the third prince's eyes were about to lose focus, Ning Qi finally stopped. At this moment, the resentment in the third prince's eyes had disappeared without a trace. Good stuff. Ning Qi couldn't help but sigh. It was a pity that the band-tightening curse could only work on non-human beings. All the demons on the sea dragon were silent. They just stared blankly at Ning Qi. Master Sea Dragon's eyes were filled with a trace of fear. Even the third Ming prince was subdued by Ning Qi. If he was in Ning Qi's shoes, he would probably end up the same way. "Are you really convinced now?" Ning Qi looked at the third prince with a smile. "Yes, I am," the third prince murmured. "I want to go to the ancestral demon mountain range." Ning Qi smiled. The third Ming prince looked at Ning Qi innocently, not understanding what Ning Qi meant. "Why don't you show your true form? Do you want me to go there myself?" Ning Qi said calmly. You want me to be your mount?" The third prince looked at Ning Qi in disbelief. Didn't he know that his father was an earth demon, the Lord of Ink Sea, the Dark Snake King? Ning Qi smiled and moved his lips slightly. The third Ming prince subconsciously let out a miserable howl, but he didn't feel the pain he had imagined. He gritted his teeth and transformed back into his huge body. Ning Qi stood on his head with a smile and pointed in the direction of the ancestral demon mountain range, saying, "Let's go." "Yes." Third Prince Ming rushed towards the ancestral demon mountain range with a look of despair. His speed was much faster than sea dragons. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the sight of the demons. Hiss! The ink sea was calm, but the hearts of the demons on the sea dragon were in turmoil. After the two of them left, they finally sucked in a breath of cold air and excitedly discussed what had just happened. The third prince was subdued by Prince Baitian and became his mount. I'm afraid no one would believe this if I were to tell others, right? If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it either. Haha, you guys don't know, but I had a few words with Child Baitian a few days ago. Really? The surrounding demons looked envious, and the demon who had spoken a few words with Ningqi suddenly showed a proud expression. Soon, after everyone calmed down, they reacted and looked at Master Hailong with a strange look in their eyes. Master Sea Dragon ignored their gazes, and looked in the direction where Ningqi and the third Ming Prince had left. After pondering for a long time, he drove the Sea Dragon to continue forward. Ancestral Demon Mountain Range. The third prince lowered his head and followed behind Ningqi dejectedly. He had tried to resist 8 times along the way, but he regretted it every time. He didn't want to endure that inhumane pain anymore. Once in the dead of night, the third prince had secretly tried to remove the golden circlet from his head. However, he found that as soon as the thought arose in his mind, his head would explode in pain even without Ningqi's chanting. At this point, the third prince believed that unless his father came to rescue him, he would have less than a 50% chance of escaping from Ningqi. However, his father had been in seclusion for hundreds of years and would only wake up after a few thousand years. I just need to wait for 3,000 years for my father to come and save me. Then, it will be your death. The third prince stared coldly at Ningqi's back. Ningqi suddenly turned his head and saw that the expression of the third Ming prince had changed greatly. The coldness on his face had disappeared and was replaced by a bright smile with a hint of flattery. Ningqi nodded and then turned his head with a slight smile. He knew what the third prince was up to, but he just let him be. With his cultivation, it would be extremely difficult for him to get rid of the golden hoop before he reached the Earth Devil stage. Half a month later, the two arrived at the depths of the ancestral Demon Mountain Range. The huge city built for the heavens' favored battle of the demon race seemed a little deserted. Only a few demons chose to stay here to cultivate. Most of them chose to leave after the heavens' favored battle ended. After all, the ancestral Demon Mountain Range was too dangerous. They would be easily killed by those demonic creatures if they stayed. However, for some of the heavens' favored battle, the ancestral Demon Mountain Range had become a sacred place for cultivation. The existence of the huge city allowed them to have no worries. Once the resources for cultivation were exhausted, they would form groups and enter the depths of the ancestral Demon Mountain Range. Ningqi's figure attracted the attention of many demons, but more of them were attracted by the third prince. This was because he was emitting a faint aura of the full circle of the human demon realm. Even in the 3 great tribes and the 4 great cities, such an expert would be highly respected. On the contrary, Ningqi was regarded as the follower of the third prince because of his height. Soon, the two arrived at the Saintess Hall. The guard of the Saintess Hall looked at the third prince coldly and shouted, "No one is allowed to come near the Saintess Hall. Otherwise you will be killed." The third prince looked at Ningqi innocently. At the same time, he was curious about the relationship between Ningqi and the Saintess Hall of the Lucifer tribe. As for Ningqi's real identity, the third prince still did not know. "I am Bei Xian from the Devil King residence of Yanshan City. I would like to see the Saintess," Ningqi said calmly. The guard was stunned for a moment before he stared at Ningqi in disbelief. Ningqi's appearance had changed a lot compared to before. He couldn't recognize Ningqi for a moment and couldn't confirm Ningqi's identity. However, he didn't dare to slight Ningqi and quickly said, "Sire, please wait here for a moment. I will immediately send the message." You are the champion of the heavens' favored battle of the demon race? The third prince looked at Ningqi with a complicated expression. Didn't you know before? Ningqi smiled. How would I know? I don't care if you are the champion or the champion. Why should I know about you? The third prince cursed in his heart, but he still put on a respectful smile and said, I didn't guess your identity before. I didn't expect you to be the #1 heaven's pride. If I had known, I wouldn't have attacked the sea dragon. It's not too late to know now. Ningqi smiled and patted the third prince's head. He was tall enough that patting the third prince was as easy as patting a child. Chapter 2045. A challenge before Ningqi even saw Jian Shilai. He saw North Moon Lingqiu first. She was currently standing at the entrance of a hall, gazing upwards with a hint of anticipation on her face. Lady Lingqiu, who are you waiting for? Ningqi smiled. You are. North Moon Lingqiu looked at Ningqi coldly. In the next moment, a hint of surprise appeared on her face as she looked at Ningqi in disbelief. Young Master Beixian? You've grown a bit over the past few years. Don't you recognize me? Ningqi smiled and said. How can that be? It's just... North Moon Lingqiu's face flushed bright red in an instant. At the same time, she felt rather vexed. Why did she not recognize Ningqi right away? All right, stop teasing her. Lingqiu, go get some tea. Jian Shilai's voice rang out from within the hall. Only then did North Moon Lingqiu let out a sigh of relief. She glanced at Ningqi shyly before leaving in a hurry. She likes you. The corner of the third prince's lips could not help but curl up slightly. He only withdrew his gaze from North Moon Lingqiu after a long while. You want me to chant an incantation? Ningqi smiled. The third prince's expression immediately became stern. The holy lady is calling for you. Wait here. Ningqi nodded and strode into the hall. The third prince snorted coldly inside. He crossed his arms and stood at the entrance of the hall. The two guards at the entrance could not help but look at him. What are you looking at? A sliver of the aura of a great perfection human demon radiated from the third prince. The two guards snorted inwardly and turned their heads away. If it were not for the fact that Ningqi had brought him here, they would not be afraid of a mere great perfection human demon at all. Causing trouble in the Holy Lady's Hall would not end well. How did you end up like this? Jian Shilai stood before Ningqi and raised his head to look at him. His expression was rather strange. She could tell that Ningqi's current cultivation was extremely dense. An explosive power was hidden beneath his body. Perhaps this power was the reason why Ningqi's body had grown to 3 meters tall. I've absorbed too much demon qi. I should be able to recover after a while. Ningqi grinned. Jian Shilai suddenly threw a palm towards Ningqi. Ningqi's eyes slightly moved, and he instantly opened all 6 gates. A fist that was many times bigger than a pot appeared in front of him, and when Jian Shilai's palm landed on it, it exploded out with an incomparably powerful force, causing Ningqi to involuntarily take a few steps back. Even a consummate human demon might not be able to unleash this attack of mine. The fact that you're able to receive this attack means that there's probably no one below the Earth Demon realm who can threaten you. Jian Shilai nodded her head in satisfaction. A look of gratification appeared in her eyes, but in reality, she was also a little shocked in her heart. The reason she was able to suppress Ningqi was because she had been in the immortal prison for many years, and with Lucifer's help, she had become an existence of the Earth Devil stage. But according to what she knew, Ningqi had not been in the immortal prison for long, and had not even broken through to the human devil stage yet. Aunt Jian, you flatter me. Ningqi smiled. At this moment, North Moon Lingqiu walked in with tea. She put down the tea and glanced at Ningqi, then hurried out of the hall with her head lowered. Jian Shilai took a sip of tea and looked at Ningqi with a smile that was not a smile. Lingqiu's mind has always been on you. You haven't come here to visit Aunt Jian all these years, but she often talks about you in front of me. Aunt Jian, I've been in secluded cultivation all these years. Ning Qi smiled and looked at North Moon Lingqiu's back, then shook his head indifferently. Aunt Jian, I've come today to ask you if you're returning to the central continent. Returning to the central continent? You found your way back? Jian Shilai was slightly surprised, then her face became wild with joy. Yes. Ning Qi smiled. He did not need to hide anything from Jian Shilai, so he told her how he could return. Jian Shilai sighed. There's actually a sect building like this. You've always been in contact with the sect, so you can return at any time? I need to pay a small price. Ning Qi smiled. It would take some time to gather 3 million dragon-slaying crystals. Since I can return at any time, I won't be going back for now. When you find a passage to the immortal continent in the future, remember to tell me. Jian Shilai smiled faintly. Ning Qi nodded. He could tell that Jian Shilai actually wanted to return to the central continent, but her cultivation seemed to have reached a bottleneck. With her identity as the Saintess, it would not take long for her to break through this bottleneck. Staying in the Lucifer tribe was a better choice. The environment of the central continent was not suitable for those above the human demon stage to cultivate. Perhaps she cultivated so desperately because she wanted to go to the immortal continent with Ning Qi one day and find Feng Jiuxian. However, she did not know that Feng Jiuxian had already been reduced to ashes. As an elder, Jian Shilai told Ning Qi some things and suggested that he go to the Lucifer tribe. There was a demonic item in the Elder Pavilion that could condense demonic qi into demonic orbs. If Ning Qi returned to the central continent, he would not be able to absorb demonic qi to refine his body. It would be more appropriate to bring some demonic orbs with him when he left. After leaving the hall, Ning Qi glanced at the third Prince Ming, who immediately followed him. After leaving the Saintess Temple, Ning Qi stopped and looked at the Saintess Temple with an apologetic look in his eyes. Yo, isn't this our number one genius? Not far away there was a sneer. When the demons nearby heard this, they all looked at Ning Qi with a hint of surprise in their eyes. However, Qiyu Hanzhong would never recognize the wrong person. Since he said so, this person must be the number one genius. Qiyu Hanzhong looked at Ning Qi with a faint smile. A fierce look flashed in the depths of his eyes. He was followed by a large group of demon geniuses from the Qiyu tribe. Qiyu Blood Prince, whom Ning Qi had met once before, was also among them. Someone seeking revenge is here? The third Prince Ming's eyes lit up. Ning Qi turned around and his eyes fell on Qiyu Hanzhong. He smiled. Qiyu Hanzhong, I haven't seen you for more than 20 years. Why are you still as silly as before? Silly and silly, Qiyu and the other Heaven's Chosen glanced at each other, then looked at Ning Qi with a slightly strange expression. This fellow was really audacious. He actually dared to use this word to describe Qiyu Hanzhong. Was he not afraid that Qiyu Hanzhong would explode and kill him on the street? Even if he had the backing of the Saintess Temple, he would not be able to save him, right? As expected of the number one genius. The demons nearby looked at Ning Qi with admiration. You. On the day of the Demon Genius Tournament I could not kill you because of the rules. Today, do you dare to fight me fair and square? Life or death? Qiyu Hanzhong said angrily. Chapter 2046. Let's bet on the elemental beads. What are we betting on? Qiyu Hanzhong was slightly startled. He thought that Ning Qi would reject his request. After all, Ning Qi had only relied on a loophole in the rules to obtain more points than him and the heaven-punishing Flame Emperor. Therefore, Ning Qi's strength was only slightly stronger than the average late-stage demonic human, but he had no chance of winning against Qiyu Hanzhong. Could it be that this kid is just using this excuse to get out of this embarrassing situation? Qiyu Hanzhong thought that he had seen through Ning Qi's thoughts. His lips curled up into a sinister smile and he said, "All right, what do you want to bet? Just tell me." Let's bet on the demonic elemental orbs then, Ning Qi said with a smile. Demonic origin bead? When the nearby demons heard this, their complexion changed slightly. According to legend, there was a demonic artifact in the Elder Pavilion of the Lucifer tribe. It could absorb a large amount of demonic energy every day and night and condense it into demonic elemental bead. When cultivating, holding a demonic elemental bead in one's mouth was equivalent to going to some kind of cultivation holy land with incomparably vigorous demonic energy. Moreover, it was more convenient than cultivating holy land, as the demonic elemental bead could be carried around. The demonic elemental bead was divided into 3 grades, namely heaven, earth, and human. The human-grade demonic elemental bead took 3 to 5 years to form, while the earth-grade demonic elemental bead took 30 to 50 years to form. The heaven-grade demonic elemental bead was the most precious, and it took 300 to 500 years to form. The Lucifer tribe's demonic elemental bead, other than 70% of the demonic elemental bead provided to their own demonic clan's disciples, the remaining 30% would be sold. Ordinary demonic clan didn't even have the qualification to buy it. Only the Heaven's Pride like Qi you could buy a few as backup, and the price was not cheap. You want to bet on the devil elemental orb? Ha ha, just right, look what this is. Qiyu Hanzhong flipped his palm over, and 5 black beads appeared in his hand. Each of them was about the size of a quail egg, and as soon as they appeared, the density of the demonic qi in the surroundings increased several-fold. Many of the demons could not help but close their eyes and take a deep breath, and a hint of envy appeared in their eyes. These 5 earth-grade devil elemental orbs should be enough to bet with you, right? Qiyu Hanzhong sneered. Earth-rank devil essence bead? Ning Qi's eyes swept over them. These 5 devil elemental orbs added together were not even 1/10 of the one Feng Jiuxian had condensed for him. That's not enough. With our status, we're betting on heaven-grade demonic essence beads. Don't take out earth-grade demonic essence beads to embarrass yourself. If you don't have any, then don't fight. A good dog doesn't block the way. I'm leaving. Ning Qi shook his head lightly. Not enough? Not even earth-grade devil elemental beads? This one would cost at least 50,000 mid-grade magical crystals, right? A trace of surprise appeared on the faces of the nearby devils. 80 to 90% of the devils had already guessed that Ning Qi was trying to find a way out of this embarrassing situation. He simply didn't dare to fight with Qiyu Hanzhong, but he didn't want others to see through him. That was why he mentioned the devil elemental bead. As expected, he's looking for a way out. A trace of anger flashed in Qiyu Hanzhong's eyes, but he had no intention of stepping aside. Instead of getting angry, he laughed and said, Heaven-grade demonic essence bead? Ha ha, I have it too, but do you? You have a heaven-grade demonic essence orb? Alright, let's bet 100. How about it? Ning Qi estimated that 100 heaven-grade demonic essence beads should be enough for him to cultivate for a period of time. If he bet too much and Qiyu Hanzhong backed down, then his plan would be in vain. In fact, he was a little hesitant when he said 100. After thinking about it, he felt that it was safer to bet 50. 100? Qiyu Hanzhong was slightly startled. The devil prodigies behind him immediately looked at Ning Qi angrily. If you don't dare to fight, then don't fight. Why are you still looking for excuses? TSK, the number 1 prodigy? It's really not as good as his reputation. Even the devils who saw Ning Qi for the first time were looking at him with dissatisfaction. Between the devil races, it was all about a fight. Beating around the bush would only make people look down on them. Ning Qi had a faint smile on his face. He didn't care about the mockery of the crowd. He just looked at Qiyu Hanzhong with a faint smile. Fight or not? If not, then I'm leaving. Ning Qi smiled. Fight. 100 beads it is. But I don't think you can take out this wager. Why don't you give me 100 heaven-grade demonic essence orbs first? Chiyu Hanzhong sneered. With the Saint Lady Temple as my guarantor, not to mention 100, I can even take out 300. I was afraid that you wouldn't have enough, so I bet 100 with you. I didn't expect you to measure the heart of a gentleman with your own mean measure. What a joke. If you want to bet, then bet. If not, then scram. Just say the word. Ning Qi said lightly. Ayaya. I'm so angry. Chiyu Hanzhong was furious, and his body couldn't help but tremble. But in order not to embarrass himself in front of everyone, he suppressed the anger in his heart and gradually calmed down. He then stared at Ning Qi and said, "This is what you said. 300 heaven-grade demonic essence orbs, I'll bet with you." Big Brother Hanzhong, 300 heaven-grade demonic essence orbs. Even if our Chiyu tribe searched the entire place, we wouldn't be able to find so many. Please reconsider. Chiyu Hanzhong hurriedly transmitted his voice. I have my ways. Chiyu Hanzhong snorted coldly, then looked at Ning Qi and asked, Do you want to bet? 300? Ning Qi's face showed a trace of panic. Seeing this, Chiyu Hanzhong's anger suddenly disappeared. He looked at Ning Qi mockingly and said, What, you don't dare to bet? I'll bet. Ning Qi gritted his teeth and said, Good. 2 months from now, we will fight in the same arena as last time. We will fight to the death, and I will have Elder Chiyu Tiansha come to preside over it. If you want to have the Holy Maiden come to watch you die, that's fine too. Chiyu Hanzhong sneered, then turned around and left with a large group of people. It seems that the number 1 genius won't be able to escape this calamity. I've seen Chiyu Hanzhong's skills before. Even if a few late-stage human demons attacked him at the same time, he could still deal with them easily. Although this northern black demon tribe is very strong, being able to kill a genius like God Huang before reaching the human demon realm, there's still a gap between him and Chiyu Hanzhong. TSK, I'm really looking forward to it. I must go and watch this battle in 2 months. The news of Chiyu Hanzhong and Ning Qi's battle quickly spread throughout the giant city. Even the outside world had heard about it. Many demons rushed towards the ancestral demon mountain range when they received the news. During this period of time, Chiyu Hanzhong had visited several of his good friends, almost all of them he knew. These friends were very generous towards him, wanting to borrow the devil elemental beads, because they believed that Chiyu Hanzhong would definitely win. Finally, he even found Flame Emperor Xingtian, who was in seclusion. Oh? You want to fight with him? 300 heaven-grade demonic essence orbs? Flame Emperor Xingtian frowned and looked at Chiyu Hanzhong. That's right. How many do you have? Lend them to me first. I'll return you double after I kill him. Chapter 2047. Chapter 2047. Chapter 2047 A,000. I don't have many, but I can help you borrow some from the elders. It's just that 300 is too little. If you want to bet, let's bet 800. Sky Xingyan Emperor said. 800 heaven-grade demonic origin beads? Chiyu Hanzhong sucked in a breath of cold air. Let alone him, even an old ancestor of the Earth Devil stage wouldn't be able to gather so many devil elemental beads even if he emptied his entire fortune. But since Sky Xingyan Emperor said so, he should be able to get the remaining beads. After all, he was the 9th son of Xingtian tribe's chief. His status was different from Chiyu Hanzhong's. If he asked for the beads, the elders of Xingtian tribe should be generous enough to give them to him. But with so many beads, it would take at least 30 to 50% of Xingtian tribe's inventory. In addition to the 230 heaven-grade devil elemental beads I have, I don't mind if you can gather 800 of them. I'm just afraid that that guy will use this as an excuse to step down. If he doesn't even fight me, it won't be easy for me to find an excuse to kill him next time. Chiyu Hanzhong frowned. How can the number 1 prodigy go back on his words? Isn't he afraid of being laughed at by the world? Sky Xingyan Emperor sneered. His words were full of disdain for Ning Qi's title. If he knew Ning Qi's real situation from the start, he wouldn't have let him take away the glory that should have belonged to him. This time, Qiyu Hanzhong wanted to fight Ning Qi, and it was a good chance for him to vent his anger. How could Sky Xingyin Emperor not add oil to the fire? It's hard to say. Qiyu Hanzhong was still hesitant. He felt that 300 beads was enough. After all, his real goal was to kill Ning Qi. Go and try. There's still some time. If it doesn't work, we'll talk about it, Sky Xingyin Emperor said. Qiyu Hanzhong thought for a while, then nodded and left. Qiyu Hanzhong said he wants to bet 800 beads with you, Jian. Shi Lai looked at Ning Qi with a strange expression. The smile on Ning Qi's face was very familiar to her. As long as she saw this smile, it meant that Ning Qi had started to set up a trap. Aunt Jian, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you this time. If I hastily agree to it, those old and cunning fellows will definitely become cowards and this competition may not happen. Just say that I don't agree to it. Unless they bet 1,000 heaven-grade devil origin beads, I won't fight this competition. Ning Qi smiled. The third Ming prince, who was standing behind Ning Qi, raised his head and looked at Ning Qi with a hint of fear in his eyes. Isn't this fellow a bit too greedy? He actually wants to cheat me of 1,000 heaven-grade devil origin beads? How many magical crystals would that be? Perhaps it'll fill up my palace, the third Ming prince thought to himself. He had seen Ning Qi's battle prowess before. Others thought that Qiyu Hanzhong would definitely win this competition, but he knew that Qiyu Hanzhong would definitely lose. However, he didn't expect the bet to double again and again. The third Ming prince suddenly recalled that Ning Qi wasn't surprised when he heard the news. Could it be that he had already guessed this? 1,000 devil origin beads, Jian. Shi Lai was silent for a while before saying, do you know that even the Lucifer tribe only has a little more than 3,000 heaven-grade devil origin beads in their storage? You're basically emptying their entire fortune. Since I'm going to leave, how can I not bring more devil origin beads back? Ning Qi smiled. All right. The corner of Jian Shi Lai's mouth rose. I'll help you with this matter. What? 1,000 devil origin beads? Otherwise, we won't fight this competition? Damn it, it was indeed as I guessed. The Heaven Punishment Flame Emperor made an unnecessary move and caused me to lose a great opportunity. After Qiyu Hanzhong received the message from his subordinate, he was incomparably furious. My lord, he wants to bet 1,000 devil origin beads. Just bet with him. Seeing this, Qiyu Hanzhong's subordinate spoke in a low voice. 1,000? Where am I going to find 1,000 devil origin beads? Do you think the Xingtian tribe can take out more than 700 heaven-grade devil origin beads? Qiyu Hanzhong glared at him, but as soon as he finished speaking, he thought of something and ordered his subordinates to pass the news to the heaven-punishing Flame Emperor. Then, he found an acquaintance of Ning Qi. Elder Davis, I'm extremely clear about the enmity between you and him. Now is the time for you to take revenge. Qiyu Hanzhong found Davis and sat face to face. Although his cultivation was lower than Davis's, because of his high status in the Qiyu tribe, he didn't need to put on the attitude of a junior when facing Davis. What enmity? Qiyu Hanzhong, you can't speak irresponsibly. I won't participate in this competition, Davis said indifferently. All right, since I've missed this opportunity, I don't know how long I'll have to wait to kill him next time. I don't care. Qiyu Hanzhong immediately stood up and left. Wait. Hearing the voice behind him, the corner of Qiyu Hanzhong's mouth rose slightly. He turned around and looked at Davis. Elder Davis, is there anything else? How many heaven-grade devil origin beads do you lack? Davis said coldly. Not many, 200. Qiyu Hanzhong smiled. 200 was not many? Even if Davis was the Lucifer tribe's law enforcement hall master, he didn't have many heaven-grade devil origin beads in his hands. After hesitating for a while, Davis stared deeply at Qiyu Hanzhong. How confident are you in killing this kid in this competition? 100%. Chiyu Hanzhong sneered. During the Devil Race's Heaven's Pride battle, if it wasn't for the demon god evasion talisman, do you think this kid could come back alive? However, the demon god evasion talisman can only be used once. I'd like to see what means he has to save his life this time. 100%. Dai Weixi's eyes flashed fiercely. Apart from Yu Ji, who died at Ning Qi's hands, his other disciples were also slaughtered by Ning Qi during the Demon Race's Heaven's Chosen battle. Dai Weici couldn't swallow this resentment. This was a very good opportunity for revenge. He couldn't miss it no matter what. Alright, 200 it is, but I can't give it to you now, Davis said. It's fine as long as you can give it to me before the competition. Then, Elder Davis, I'll wait for your good news. Chiyu Hanzhong smiled. I don't want a third person to know about this. When you win the competition, I want 500 heaven-grade devil origin beads, Davis said in a gloomy voice. Chiyu Hanzhong looked at him deeply, a trace of ridicule flashing in his eyes. This guy is really greedy, using 200 heaven-grade devil origin beads to exchange for 500? Chiyu Hanzhong sneered in his heart, but nodded, no problem. Chapter 2048. Chapter 2048. Chapter 2048. Come down and die. 1,000 heaven-grade demonic essence beads? Hiss. Are you telling the truth? Did Chiyu Hanzhong really bet 1,000 heaven-grade devil essence beads with that number 1 prodigy? How can it be fake? The news has already spread to the 3 major tribes and the 4 major cities. If it was true, someone from the Lucifer tribe would definitely come out to refute the rumors, but they didn't move at all. Obviously, they tacitly agreed. Tisk tsk tsk. A heaven-grade demonic essence bead is worth at least 500,000 mid-grade demonic crystals. If I could have 3 or 5 of them, I wouldn't have to worry about it for the next 100 years. These guys are really generous, betting 1,000 beads. Hee. I'm afraid this is a bet between 2 tribes. How could the number 1 genius take out 1,000 heaven-grade devil elemental beads? If the Chiyu tribe wins this time, they will naturally regain the face they lost in the Devil Race's Heaven's Pride battle. Is the battle tomorrow? Not bad. This time, there were far fewer devils who had heard the news than during the Heavenly Prodigy battle. After all, the time was too short, and the places where the news could reach were very close. By the time those devils who were further away received the news, the battle would have already ended. Even so, the number of devils who had come was still very considerable. At the very least, the number of active devils in the giant city had increased by at least 3 times. A portion of the demon race's geniuses had come for Ning Qi because Ning Qi was their idol. When they found out that their idol was going to fight Chiyu and Hanzhong, they had rushed over without stopping. They were full of confidence in Ning Qi and believed that with Ning Qi's talent, he would definitely be able to win this battle. Here are 200 heaven-grade demonic essence beads. Thank you, Elder Davis. You're welcome. Just remember to give me 500 pills after the battle. Of course. After Chiyu Hanzhong left, Dai Weixi's expression gradually became serious. He had saved up the demon crystals for a long time, and originally planned to use them to buy demon battle skills. However, this time, he took out all of them and exchanged them for more than 50 heaven-grade demon elemental beads from the tribe. As for the remaining 100 or so, he had borrowed them through his connections. He could not afford to lose them. If Chiyu Hanzhong lost this time, he would fall into a dilemma. Thinking of this, Davis laughed at himself. How could he fail? Chiyu was certain of Hanzhong's victory. That was why he was willing to make such a huge bet. Otherwise, he would have chosen to lend the heaven-grade devil elemental orb to Chiyu Hanzhong instead of participating in the bet with Ning Qi. The next day, early in the morning, there were many demons sparsely sitting in the arena. The main reason was that this arena was too big. Sitting tens of millions of demons was not a problem, so it was very spacious for millions of demons to sit here. On the high platforms of the 3 major tribes and the 4 top cities there were also demons. However, after all, it was not the battle of the demons' geniuses. On the side of the Lucifer tribe, only Jian Shilai, Davis, and the others had arrived. On the side of the Qiyu tribe, Qiyu Tiansha had come. On the side of the Xingtian tribe, not a single elder had come, only Xingtian Yen Emperor had come. The same was true for the 4 top cities. All the geniuses had come to watch the battle. Only 2 or 3 elders of the Earth Demon stage had come. Davis, it seems like you care about Beixian a lot. Jian Shilai looked at Davis with a faint smile. Davis smiled faintly. Beixian is the genius of the demons of my Lucifer tribe. He is going to fight with Qiyu Hanzhong. As the elder of the Law Enforcement Hall, I naturally have the responsibility to come and watch the battle. Is that so? Jian Shilai smiled and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Davis thought that he was doing things secretly, but when he transferred 200 heaven-grade devil elemental orbs from the Lucifer tribe, Jian Shilai received the news soon after. Why did he want 200 heaven-grade devil elemental orbs for no reason? For the Earth Demon stage, the effect of the devil elemental orb was not too strong. It was of little value. It was tasteless and a pity to discard it. In this way, Davis's purpose was very obvious. Obviously, he was also involved in this battle, and he was not on the side of the Lucifer tribe, but joined forces with Qiyu Hanzhong and the others. If this matter was exposed, Davis would inevitably be labeled as a traitor. At this moment, Ning Qi and the 3rd Prince of Ming broke through the air and landed on the Lucifer tribe's high platform. When the demons in the audience saw this, there was a buzz and a commotion. Many demons were excited and stared at Ning Qi with fiery eyes. The geniuses of the Qiyu tribe, Xingtian tribe, and the 4 giant cities also looked at Ning Qi with different expressions. Davis glanced at Ning Qi coldly, then smiled, turned his head and closed his eyes to sleep. Not long after Ning Qi arrived, Qiyu Hanzhong brought a large group of demon geniuses and landed heavily on the Qiyu tribe's high platform. At this moment, Qiyu Tiansha, who had been closing his eyes to sleep, slowly opened his eyes and said to Jian Shilai in a clear voice, "Saintess, since the people from both sides are here, shall we start the battle now? Take out your devil elemental orbs first." Jian Shilai smiled faintly. Qiyu Tiansha's eyes flashed coldly when he heard this. "Are you afraid that my Qiyu tribe can't afford to lose?" "Yes." Jian Shilai nodded calmly. "Since that's the case, then take out your devil elemental orb and let me take a look so that we know that you're not trying to trick us," Qiyu Tiansha said coldly. "Do I need to take out my devil elemental orb? I can mobilize the things of the Lucifer tribe at any time. If you don't believe me, why don't we bet 2,000 heaven-grade devil elemental orbs? How about it?" The corners of Jian Shilai's mouth curled up slightly. "Elder, they seem to be looking for an excuse to avoid this battle." Qiyu Hanzhong hurriedly transmitted his voice. When Qiyu Tiansha saw this, he snorted coldly in his heart. He was also afraid that Jian Shilai would find an excuse to raise the bet to 2,000 heaven-grade devil elemental orbs. This way, they would definitely not be able to take out such a large sum of heaven-grade devil elemental orbs. Thinking up to here, Qiyu Tiansha shook his hand, and a universe ring shot towards Jian Shilai like lightning. Jian Shilai smiled, and with a light lift of his palm, the universe ring immediately stopped and floated above his palm. With a sweep of his mind, Jian Shilai nodded and threw the universe ring to Ning Qi. "There are 1,000 heaven-grade devil elemental orbs inside. Count some yourself." Jian Shilai smiled. Ning Qi didn't point it and immediately kept it. Since Jian Shilai had already confirmed it, there was no need for him to do anything unnecessary. Ning Qi was happy that he had finally obtained 1,000 heaven-grade devil elemental orbs. Before the battle even ended, Jian Shilai had already given the universe ring that contained the heaven-grade devil elemental orbs to Ningqi. This caused all the demons to be stunned. Could it be that Jian Shilai thought that Ningqi would definitely win this battle? Deliberately mystifying. Qiyu Hanzhong looked coldly at Ningqi, then flew up and landed on the stage. He pointed at Ningqi and said, "Number 1 genius, come down and die." Chapter 2049. Chapter 2049. Chapter 2049 Concede Defeat. Qiyu Hanzhong is so arrogant. Young Master Beixian is the number 1 sky talent. Is it because he is unwilling to admit defeat? The geniuses of the devil race who idolized Ningqi instantly glared at Qiyu Hanzhong. However, most of the devil race stood on Qiyu Hanzhong's side with a hint of schadenfreude in their eyes. In their view, Ningqi was only able to obtain the title of the number 1 Heaven's Pride battle because of a loophole. This title originally belonged to the Heaven-Punishing Flame Emperor. The Heaven-Punishing Flame Emperor stared at Ningqi with a faint smile on his face. Although he couldn't personally kill Ningqi this time, as long as Ningqi died in the hands of Qiyu Hanzhong today, no one would remember him for another 10 years. Ningqi smiled, leaped up, and landed in front of Qiyu Hanzhong. The distance between the two sides was less than 30 feet. For both sides, such a distance could be covered in an instant. The devils in the audience gradually became nervous. Most of the devils thought that Ningqi could not be Qiyu Hanzhong's opponent, and that he had not died in the hands of Qiyu Hanzhong at that time because of the demon god's destruction talisman. However, Ningqi still carried the title of the number 1 prodigy. Many demons were secretly looking forward to it. Would a miracle happen? I've been waiting for this day for decades. You really shouldn't have agreed to fight me. Qiyu Hanzhong heaved a sigh of relief in his heart when he saw Ningqi's fate. This time there wouldn't be any mishaps. He would be able to kill Ningqi openly. Let me ask you one last question. Ningqi smiled. In the end? When the demons in the spectator stands heard this, their expressions suddenly became a little strange. The demon prodigies who were originally full of confidence in Ningqi were also stunned on the spot. Could it be that Ningqi also felt that he had no chance of winning this competition? One last question? All right, ask away. Qiyu Hanzhong nodded with a faint smile. If I bet 2,000 heaven-grade devil elemental beads with you, will you cancel this battle? Ningqi smiled. Of course not. It's a rare opportunity to kill you openly. Do you think I'll miss it? Qiyu Hanzhong laughed out loud. I knew it. This number 1 prodigy used 1,000 heaven-grade devil elemental beads as a wager, hoping that Qiyu Hanzhong would back down and cancel the battle. But he didn't expect Qiyu Hanzhong's killing intent to be so strong that he forcefully gathered 1,000 heaven-grade devil elemental beads. TSK. Many of the demons in the spectator stands looked at Ningqi with a hint of mockery in their eyes. Some of the demons who idolized Ningqi looked at him in disbelief. Their hearts ached. Could it be that the number 1 genius in their hearts was so cowardly? Sigh, a hint of regret appeared on Ningqi's face. It's too late for you to regret now. Qiyu Hanzhong laughed loudly. Just as he was about to make a move, he found that Ningqi had already made the first move and punched him in the face. You dare to sneak attack me? How dare you? Today, I'll let you know the difference between us. Qiyu Hanzhong roared and punched out. He planned to break Ningqi's arm and let him know how powerful he was. Bang! Crack! The sound of an arm breaking resounded. Then, Qiyu Hanzhong was sent flying with a dumbfounded expression. His right arm had already been broken into several pieces and was fluttering in the air. How could this be? It felt like a dream, but the pain in his arm was very real. Boom! With a loud bang, Qiyu Hanzhong landed heavily on the ground. Hiss! The demons in the crowd all gasped and looked at Ningqi in disbelief. Some of them even rubbed their eyes, thinking that they were seeing things. On the high platforms of the 3 major tribes and the 4 major cities, the demons who came to watch the battle looked at each other in disbelief. Then, they stood up abruptly and looked at the center of the arena. What's going on? Chiyu Tiansha's expression changed. The sky-punishing Flame Emperor's eyes flashed with horror as he looked at Ningqi, as if he wanted to see if Ningqi was really there. Dai Weixi's heart felt like it had been struck by a heavy fist. His entire body trembled as he subconsciously stood up and looked at the situation in the arena with an ashen expression. When he confirmed that the one lying on the ground was Chiyu Hanzhong and the one standing was Ningqi, Dai Weixi's eyes revealed a trace of horror. Damn it! Why was it different from what he had expected? How could Chiyu Hanzhong be sent flying with a single punch? If Chiyu Hanzhong failed this time, he would lose a total of 200 heaven-grade demon essence beads. This was a huge sum of demonic crystals for Dai Weici. Dai Weixi's body swayed slightly as he considered what would happen to Chiyu Hanzhong if he failed. His face turned dark as a mouthful of blood gushed out of his throat before he forcefully swallowed it back down. Jian Shilai noticed this scene from the corner of his eye. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as a hint of mockery flashed in his eyes. This was called going for wool and coming home shorn. I really regret not betting 2,000 heaven-grade demon essence beads with you. Ningqi walked in front of Chiyu Hanzhong and smiled. Impossible. Go to hell. Chiyu Hanzhong roared and wanted to counterattack, but Ningqi's fist landed on his body once again. The huge force caused the entire arena to shake and a mushroom cloud erupted. After the smoke dissipated, everyone saw Chiyu Hanzhong lying in the middle of the deep pit in a sorry state. His neck seemed to have been broken as his head drooped beside his shoulder. Too strong. Chiyu Hanzhong is actually not his match? Damn, this guy knew he would win from the beginning, right? So he was actually regretting not betting 2,000 heaven-grade demon essence beads with Chiyu Hanzhong. The devils in the spectator seats immediately fell into a state of shock. Many of them had a good relationship with Chiyu Hanzhong, and had taken out some devil elemental beads to lend to Chiyu Hanzhong in this battle. Now their complexions were ugly, as if they had eaten a mouthful of dog shit. If Chiyu Hanzhong really lost this time, he would lose a total of 1,000 heaven-grade demon essence bead. This was a considerable amount of demonic crystals for the entire Chiyu tribe. It would be very difficult for them to collect this debt from Chiyu Hanzhong. Creek. The Sky Punishment Flame Emperor clenched his fists tightly as he stared at Ningqi with an incomparably solemn expression. Only he knew how much of the 1,000 devil elemental beads he had obtained. If Chiyu Hanzhong lost, the one who would suffer the most would be him. How did this kid's battle strength increase to such a level? How did he do it? Flame Emperor Xing Tian couldn't understand, but he was very unwilling to lose so many demon essence beads to Ningqi this time. I admit defeat. Chapter 2050. Come and kill me. You're not fighting anymore? Chiyu Tiansha, it's not right for you to interfere like this, right? Jian Shilai's expression turned cold. He took a step forward and appeared in front of Ningqi in an instant. He looked at Chiyu Tiansha coldly. Chiyu Tiansha's expression turned ugly. Are you planning to kill me? He glanced at Ningqi coldly. 1,000 heaven-grade demon essence beads isn't enough. Do you want to take Hanzhong's life as well? Rules are rules. If you don't abide by this rule today, then you are making fun of my Lucifer tribe. I believe that Lord Lucifer will not be merciful to such a person. Jian Shilai said indifferently. Elder Tiansha, I can still fight. Chiyu Hanzhong stood up with difficulty and stared at Ningqi. At this moment, Chiyu Tiansha's hands moved slightly behind his back. An extremely hidden stream of light flashed from his hands and entered Chiyu Hanzhong's body. Chiyu Hanzhong was stunned. He couldn't help but reveal a hint of ecstasy in his eyes. Since that's the case, let's continue. Chiyu Tiansha sneered and returned to the high platform. Seeing this, Jian Shilai smiled and returned to the high platform. The demons in the audience were rather disappointed. They thought that they would be able to see two Earth demon stage existences fight. They didn't expect Chiyu Tiansha to admit defeat so quickly. You can still fight? Ning Qi looked at Chiyu Hanzhong with a faint smile. I don't care what fortuitous encounters you had during this period of time. You want to defeat me today? No way. Ah. Chiyu Hanzhong laughed maniacally. A golden light erupted from his body and enveloped him. When Flame Emperor Xing Tian and the others saw this, their expressions changed. Many of the demons present had seen something similar to the golden light around Chiyu Hanzhong's body in the demon race's Heaven's Chosen battle. Demon God Evasion Talisman. It's actually the Demon God Evasion Talisman? I didn't expect Chiyu Hanzhong to have such a trick up his sleeve. From the looks of it, the battle today will be a draw. With the Demon God Evading Talisman, Chiyu can at least remain undefeated in Hanzhong. What a pity. If it wasn't for the Chiyu Heavenly Shah's intervention, Chiyu Hanzhong wouldn't have had the time to release the Demon God Repulsive Talisman. The Chiyu tribe is really shameless. Ha ha ha. Come on, hit me. Today, I will at most tie with you. You didn't expect it, did you? Back then, you used the Demon God's Evasion Talisman to obtain the title of the #1 prodigy, and now it's on you so quickly. This is called paying someone back in their own coin. Chiyu Hanzhong laughed proudly. Even though he had suffered serious injuries, he was very happy. This old man, Jian Shilai, looked coldly at the Chiyu Heavenly Shah. Regardless of whether the Demon God Evading Talisman was in Chiyu Hanzhong's body or had just taken the opportunity to give it to him, it was all related to the Chiyu Heavenly Shah. The Chiyu Heavenly Shah revealed a faint smile and nodded at Jianxi. Fight with me? He's still too tender. All right. This time, the Heaven-grade Demon Essence bead is safe. Davis heaved a deep sigh of relief. Unknowingly, his back was covered in cold sweat. He no longer hoped that Chiyu Hanzhong could kill Ning Qi and avenge him. As long as Chiyu Hanzhong remained undefeated, it would be a blessing. Come on. Hit me. Ah. Chiyu Hanzhong laughed maniacally. He recalled the scene of the spider pattern mocking him under the protection of the Demon God Repulsive Talisman. He immediately felt a sense of satisfaction. Now, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Ning Qi smiled. With a flip of his palm, the Dragon Slayer saber appeared in his hand. He then slashed at Chiyu Hanzhong. Want to destroy the Demon God Repulsive Talisman? Dream on. A hint of mockery flashed in Davis's eyes. Previously, Ning Qi had used the Demon God Repulsive Talisman to block the siege of dozens of late-stage human devils, including the Heaven-punishing Emperor. He did not believe that Ning Qi could break the Demon God Repulsive Talisman now. The corner of the Chiyu Heavenly Shah's mouth rose slightly. After the Demon God Repulsive Talisman, he specially went to the Heavenly Talisman tribe to retrieve it, just in case. Today, it finally came in handy. With Ning Qi's strength, even if he used a high-grade demon artifact, he would not be able to break the Demon God Repulsive Talisman in a short time, let alone a saber. Looks like it's a draw. The Heaven-punishing Emperor sighed lightly. Saber? Ah. Come and chop. Puff. The golden light curtain was split into two by the Dragon Slayer saber. The sharp blade had already sunk deep into Chiyu Hanzhong's head. Chiyu Hanzhong looked at Ning Qi in disbelief. Blood was already gushing out of his head, mouth, and eyes. Only then did he finish his sentence. After that, Chiyu Hanzhong looked at Ning Qi reluctantly, the vitality in his eyes gradually dissipating. Everyone heard it. He asked me to chop him, and even asked me to hit him. This is the first time I've heard of such a request. Sigh. Ning Qi put away the Dragon Slayer saber, shook his head, and sighed. Then, he flew up and returned to Jian Shilai's side. Only then did the demon race in the spectators' stand react. The entire arena immediately became extremely noisy. Qiyu Hanzhong died just like that? That's unbelievable. Isn't that the demon god repulsive talisman? How could it not even withstand a single strike from young Master Beixian? Could it be that that saber is an high-grade demon artifact? Sigh, a genius of a generation has fallen just like that. What a pity, what a pity! Qiyu Tiansha slowly turned his neck and finally locked his gaze on Ningqi. In the depths of his eyes there was a trace of shock, but more of it was anger that was about to explode. Qiyu Hanzhong was a rare genius of the Qiyu tribe. All the elders had concluded that he had a 70 to 80% chance of reaching the Earth Demon realm. Such a genius had died in the hands of Ningqi. How could Qiyu Tiansha not be angry? Davis could no longer control his arm. It was trembling nonstop. 200 heaven-grade demon origin beads. He had lost 200 heaven-grade demon origin beads in one go. Most of them were borrowed by him. This time, he had basically gone bankrupt and owed a huge debt. Even if he was in the Earth Demon realm, he didn't know how many years it would take for him to repay this debt. More importantly, if the members of the Elder Cabinet knew that he had borrowed the demon origin beads and colluded with outsiders to harm Ningqi, he might not even be able to keep his position as the second Elder of the Law Enforcement Hall. The Heaven Punishment Flame Emperor took a deep breath as his complexion gradually turned pale. With his status, 700 or 800 heaven-grade devil origin beads were not enough to crush him to death, but if his father were to find out about this, he was very afraid of what kind of impression he would leave in his father's heart. Elder Tiansha, the battle has ended. We will be leaving first. Oh, thank you for the 1,000 heaven-grade demon origin beads. Chapter 2051. Return to the Central Continent. After returning to the Saint Lady Temple, Ningqi took out a heaven-grade demonic essence bead and played with it in her hand. At the same time, she continued to absorb the thick demonic aura from it. About 2 hours later, Ningqi determined from the amount of devil qi he absorbed and the amount of devil qi that disappeared from the devil elemental bead. A heaven-grade devil elemental bead was roughly equivalent to the amount of devil qi one could absorb in Hidden Cultivator City's secret realm for 10 years. However, this was only for ordinary geniuses. The amount of devil qi Ningqi could absorb in Hidden Cultivator City's secret realm far exceeded this amount. No matter what, 1,000 heaven-grade devil essence beads were enough for Ningqi to cultivate for a long time. He wouldn't have to worry about devil qi for a long time. Child Beixian, I heard from the Saintess that you're leaving? North Moon Lingqiu brought in 2 cups of tea, handing one to the third prince and the other to Ningqi. The third prince nodded in thanks with a smile. Yes. Ningqi smiled and nodded. Then remember to come to the Saint Lady Temple more often in the future. The Saint Lady wants to see you, North Moon Lingqiu murmured, before turning around and leaving quickly. The third prince chuckled as he looked at North Moon Lingqiu's back. Just when he was about to say something, he saw Ningqi looking at him with a faint smile. Seeing this, the third prince laughed dryly and drank his tea in silence. You're still drinking? Let's go. Ningqi finished the tea in the cup, then stood up and said, Leave? Child Beixian, where are you going? The third prince was taken aback. Where are we going? Take you to a place you've never been before. Ningqi let out a faint smile, which was rather mysterious in the eyes of the third prince. Before he could react, a mystical aura engulfed him. The third Ming prince subconsciously wanted to resist, but when he saw the warning look on Ningqi's face, he immediately dispersed the demonic qi he had gathered. Since Ningqi didn't want to kill him, the third Ming prince decided to give up in order to suffer less. In the blink of an eye, the third prince was sucked into Ningqi's fortune domain. Central Continent. Since Ningqi was suppressed, there were a few Immortal King rank existences in Dao Expansion Immortal City that were stationed in the Azure Dragon continent. Originally, there were a total of 7 great sages in the Azure Dragon continent. The great sage Xianzhen was no longer here, and the remaining 6 great sages chose to enter into closed-door cultivation after these 7 immortal king-rank existences appeared. At the same time, they released all the authority in their hands and asked their clansmen to keep a low profile. In this way, the true rulers of the Azure Dragon continent became the few immortal kings who were stationed there. The original Wang family's ancestral city had now become the residence of the immortal kings. If there was any dispute that could not be resolved between the various forces in the Azure Dragon continent, or if they found any rare treasures, they would come here immediately. After all, these immortal kings were ordered by the Dao Yen Celestial Emperor to come to the Azure Dragon continent to monitor the world. In secret, the various cultivators called them the inspectors. Have you guys heard? Some time ago, the remnants of the War God Temple, the Blood Abyssal clan, and the Wang clan were discovered in the Netherworld Dao Celestial Dynasty. They killed a few geniuses from Dao Expansion Immortal City. All the geniuses rushed over after hearing the news and wanted to surround and capture them. In the end, even the recently famous Feng Wudao was defeated by them. Alas, since that person was suppressed, the War God Temple and Dao Expansion Immortal City are like fire and water. The strange thing is, until now, no one has been able to find the location of the War God Temple. It seems that even Dao Expansion Immortal Emperor can't do anything about it. Feng Wudao? Is he the personal disciple of true immortal Netherworld Dao, the husband of Twilight Autumn Cicada? A few decades ago, he suddenly obtained the favor of a divinity and was imparted a supreme cultivation technique to him, causing him to break through to the second tribulation creator realm in a short period of time? Yes, it's indeed him, hiss. At that time, he was merely the young master of the Kunlun abode under true immortal Xian, and he was a materialization realm cultivator like us. I never expected that his cultivation would improve so swiftly once he heard the Dao. Haha, all of you probably still remember that Feng Wudao once offended that person, right? Later on, he was beaten into a child by that person's divine ability. All these years, he's probably been pursuing the remnants of the War God Temple so fervently because he holds a grudge against that person. In the Wang clan's ancestral city, a few materialization realm cultivators sat in a private room of a restaurant and chatted lightly. But when they mentioned that person, their voices became even softer. It was as if that person was a taboo here, and they didn't even dare rashly mention his name. Shoo, don't talk about it. If the supervisor hears us talking about this person, he'll probably think that we're remnants of the War God Temple and kill us. On the street outside the restaurant stood a 5-meter-tall young man. When the nearby cultivators passed by this young man, they would take a few extra glances at him. But this wasn't strange. There were thousands of foreign races in the central continent, and, for example, the Titan descendants were born 30 meters tall. A mere 5-meter-tall young man wasn't enough to scare them. Behind this young man stood another young man. He had a curious look on his face as he looked around. So he was born in this world. But there isn't a trace of demonic qi here. No wonder he cheated Qiyu Hanzhong of 1,000 demonic elemental beads. Third Prince Ming thought to himself as he looked around curiously. Suddenly, he looked at Ning Qi in realization. He finally understood why Ning Qi would bet 1,000 demonic elemental beads with Qiyu Hanzhong. Ning Qi overheard the idle chatter of the demon race along the way. From their words, he could already deduce what kind of changes had occurred in the central continent after he had been imprisoned in the immortal prison. Firstly, the territory conquered by Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer had been completely reclaimed by the Dao Yen Immortal Emperor. This time, the Dao Yen Immortal Emperor had already extended his influence to the 9 Desolate. However, Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu did not allow the Dao Yen Immortal Emperor to intervene. Hence, there were frequent conflicts between the two sides. The 9 desolates were at a disadvantage, but there was no risk of them being breached in the short term. This was because the cautious Dao Yin had never personally gone to the 9 desolate. Ning Qi had originally thought that he would return directly to Fangsuan Mountain, but he had never expected that an accident would occur. He would be attacked by a void storm and end up in the Green Dragon continent with serious injuries. If his demonic body had not been strong enough, he might have been torn to shreds by the void storm. Afterward, Ning Qi had redeemed a top-notch cultivation training ground for a few months and had been recuperating there until a few days ago. He had no intention of returning directly to Fangsuan Mountain. Since he was already in the Green Dragon continent, he naturally had to return to the Wang family ancestral city. Young Master Beixian, where are we going now? Chapter 2052. Brazen Attack. Where to? There are many places we have to go. The corners of Ning Qi's mouth curled up slightly as he walked in the direction of the Wang family's original location. The third Ming prince muttered to himself before following suit. Soon, the two of them stopped in front of a building. 2 cultivators who looked like guards were standing at the entrance. Their cultivation bases weren't low, as they were both half-step creation-level entities. However, they were no different from ants in the eyes of the third Ming prince. This is the office of the inspector. What are the two of you sneaking around for? Suddenly, one of the guards shouted coldly towards Ning Qi. When the cultivators passing by saw this, they quickly hid to the side, afraid that the guard would misunderstand them as being with Ning Qi. At the same time, they looked at Ning Qi with a trace of schadenfreude. Where did this country bumpkin come from? Don't you know that it's better to stay away from this place? How dare you stare at it? You must have a death wish. You! The third Ming prince was about to flare up when Ning Qi glared at him. The third Ming prince had no choice but to suppress his anger. If it hadn't been for Ning Qi, he would have crushed this ant into minced meat. A half-step creation-level entity was indeed nothing more than an ant in the immortal prison. Even the weakest demon race was basically equivalent to a creation-level entity in the central continent. Therefore, the third Ming prince actually felt a little disdainful of the central continent. He just didn't dare show it in front of Ning Qi. What about you? The guard's face turned cold. He was also a little surprised that someone would dare show him disrespect. Did the other party not know where they were? Because of Ning Qi, the third Ming prince closed his eyes slowly and ignored the guard. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to resist taking another look at the guard. If that happened, he would have to suffer again. Ning Qi chuckled. With a slight thought, 4 figures appeared beside him. This is the central continent? Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse looked around and took a deep breath. He was ecstatic. He hadn't expected that they would really return. Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer was also a little happy deep down. After all, he had stayed in the central continent for too long and had unknowingly developed feelings for it. However, the immortal purgatory was more suitable for cultivation. Unlike Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse, he wasn't swayed by emotions. If he hadn't known that he could enter the immortal purgatory again, he wouldn't have returned. Xianzhen, is this your hometown? Gu Miaoxian used her divine sense and discovered that there was not even a trace of demon qi in the surroundings. The only demon qi was emitting from Ning Qi and the others, thus she concluded that this was not where she had once been. Home, the great sage of Xuanzhen looked at the scenery around him, but it was a little unfamiliar. No matter what, he couldn't think of any memories related to this place. Xuanzhen Great Sage looked at Ning Qi and asked hesitantly, "Where is this place?" "The Wang clan's land." Ning Qi smiled. "This is the Wang clan's land?" The Great Sage of Xuanzhen was slightly taken aback. Although he didn't have any memories, Ning Qi had briefly mentioned his identity in the central continent. In the Wang clan, he was the head of the family and had the highest seniority. In the blink of an eye, he had returned to his home, which made the great sage of Xuanzhen feel a little homesick. Would the people inside still recognize him? However, this is no longer the Wang clan's land. Dao Yan has sent a few creator masters to occupy this place. Ning Qi smiled. Dao Yan? The two guards at the door were shocked when they heard this. They looked at Ning Qi in disbelief. He actually dared to address the Dao Yan immortal emperor this way? The surrounding cultivators were also shocked by Ning Qi's words. They looked at Ning Qi with fear in their eyes. Xuanzhen's home has been occupied? A cold light flashed in Gu Miaoxian's eyes when she heard this. A faint murderous intent was emitted from her body. The two guards who were half a step to the creation realm looked at each other when they sensed the murderous intent. Then, one of them shouted, "Who are you people? How dare you disrespect the Dao Yan immortal emperor? Don't even think about leaving this place today." The other person fiercely waved his hand and a beam of light shot into the air, speeding into the depths of the Wang family. Seeing this, Ning Qi gently blew on it. Before the beam of light could fly more than 10 meters away, it disappeared without a trace, leaving behind a faint white powder that drifted down from the sky. "How dare you!" The two guards finally confirmed that the other party did not come with good intentions. They even dared to shoot down their message amulet. It was obvious that they did not respect the supervisor lords. "They are all Dao Yan's men?" The great sage of Xuanzhen looked at Ning Qi. Ning Qi nodded. The next moment, the great sage of Xuanzhen attacked. Poof! Two soft sounds. The heads of the two guards who were half a step to the creation realm in the eyes of the Transcendence realm cultivators were smashed by the great sage of Xuanzhen in the blink of an eye. Hiss! The surrounding cultivators could not help but retreat hundreds of feet away when they saw this scene. The originally lively street suddenly became empty. In front of the gate, only Ning Qi and the other 5 figures stood in the wind. That guy killed the supervisor's men. Does he really want to die? Could it be the remaining members of the Wang clan? The remaining members of the Wang clan? That's a big deal. Would the remaining members of the Wang clan dare to return here? The surrounding cultivators looked at each other and secretly communicated with each other. At this moment, a few cultivators standing at the outermost edge of the crowd suddenly looked at the great sage of Xuanzhen's face. These cultivators were considered old people in the Wang clan's ancestral city. They had stayed in the ancestral city for more than 1,000 years. Since they were driven away and the supervisor took over the ancestral city, they returned here. Therefore, when they saw the appearance of the great sage of Xuanzhen, they revealed a thoughtful expression. So familiar, who could it be? It should be an elder of the Wang clan. Wait, one of the cultivators suddenly raised his head with a hint of shock in his eyes. A storm was set off in his heart. When he looked at the other cultivators, he found that their expressions were basically the same as his. Do you also think he's that person? It should be. Although his appearance has changed a little, it has been thousands of years since he disappeared, so it's considered normal. I just didn't expect him to return here again. Those two existences half a step to the creation realm couldn't even withstand one move from him. I guess the great sage of Xuanzhen must have broken through to the creator realm? If the great sage of Xuanzhen is back, I'm afraid there will be another bloody storm. That won't be the case. The Azure Dragon continent is no longer the Azure Dragon continent of the past. Even if the great sage of Xuanzhen returns, what can he do? He can kill 2 half-step to the creation realm, but can he kill a supervisor? Well, that's true, let's go. Chapter 2053. Suppression of Aura. The cultivators nearby became more and more serious when they saw Ning Qi and the others enter the Wang family's residence. Some of the more timid ones had already fled, but there was no lack of bold cultivators who soared into the sky to see what was going on. As the commotion grew, more and more cultivators were attracted. However, most of the cultivators were just following the crowd. They didn't know what had happened here previously and weren't sure what would happen next. The Wang family's residence had changed beyond recognition. The buildings in Ning Qi's memory were all gone and replaced with buildings he had never seen before. The layout of the entire Wang family's residence had also been changed. "Who are you?" Suddenly, a group of young cultivators walked in front of them. All of them exuded the aura of a three-tribulation creator. The leading female cultivator frowned and looked at Ning Qi and the others strangely. They didn't remember seeing Ning Qi and the others. Since the guards at the door had let them in, they should have seen them before. Perhaps it was because of their natural vigilance. After noticing that something was wrong with Ning Qi's group, the leading female cultivator had already informed the rest of the people with a sound transmission. They looked at Ning Qi and the others with a hint of vigilance in their eyes. "This is the Wang family's residence, right?" Great Sage Xianzhen smiled and stepped forward. He knew that given his current cultivation base, no one in the central mainland would be a match for him as long as he didn't bump into the Dao Yan's celestial emperor. Using the central mainland's classification system, Great Sage Xianzhen, who had cultivated in the immortal prison for thousands of years, had already reached the level of a Yuan Venerate. Even if the 9 underworld demon Venerate appeared in front of Great Sage Xianzhen, he would be able to kill him with a single slap. Wang family? This is the office of the supervisor. The Wang family you are talking about is the remnant of the Wang family that is hiding with the remnants of the War God Temple, right? In that case, you must also be a remnant of the Wang family? The female cultivator narrowed her eyes and exuded the faint aura of a three-tribulation creator. At the same time, the cultivators around her stepped forward and surrounded Ning Qi and the others. Those few seemed to be the personal disciples of the supervisor. They are not weak even among the creators. Do you think Great Sage Xianzhen can defeat them? Naturally, he won't be able to win. The Great Sage Xianzhen has been missing for too long. Perhaps he doesn't know who's ruling over the Azure Dragon continent anymore. The era of the 7 saints can no longer be returned. That's right. Time makes people grow old. However, everything that has happened in these few thousand years is more than what happened in tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years. Perhaps it's all because of one person. You mean Yuan Venerate Beixian? Yes, before he appeared, the Green Dragon continent had been embroiled in battles for hundreds of thousands of years, but nothing that could change the situation had happened. After the appearance of the North Mystic Yuan Venerate, the changes in the Green Dragon continent became greater and greater. Do you still remember that he had merely broken through to the Dharma characteristic realm back then, yet the Dharma characteristic realm cultivators of the Green Dragon continent were so scared that they didn't even dare show their faces? That era was really hopeless. Fortunately, we escaped quickly back then. That's right. These fellows had also been part of the group that had besieged Ning Qi. However, even though Ning Qi had killed thousands of Dharma characteristic realm cultivators at that time, there had been a few that had escaped. After that, Ning Qi had ignored these ants, and they had also come out openly after hiding for a period of time. This was especially so after learning that Ning Qi had been suppressed in the immortal prison. The thorn in their hearts that had existed for a long time had finally been removed. Speaking of Ning Qi really made them sigh with emotion, especially since Great Sage Xianzhen was Ning Qi's great-grandfather. Remnant of the Wang family? Ha ha ha! Great Sage Xianzhen laughed heartily. I am Wang Xuanzhen. According to what you said, I am indeed a remnant of the Wang family. So, do you want to kill me? Wang Xuanzhen? Great Sage Xianzhen? Buzz. When the cultivators nearby heard Great Sage Xianzhen's words, they were shocked and whispered to each other. The way they looked at Ning Qi and the others changed again and again. Great Sage Xianzhen is back? At the periphery of the crowd, a young cultivator looked at Wang Xuanzhen thoughtfully. He was the son of Great Sage Kuan Peng Wuyu. He had fought with Ning Qi and even chased after Ning Qi. However, when Ning Qi had broken through to the Dharma characteristic realm, he did not want to hit him when he was down. In the end, he did not die in the hands of Ning Qi, whose combat power had increased greatly after the breakthrough. After that, his life had not interacted with Ning Qi. It was not until Ning Qi was suppressed in the immortal prison that he heard the news. Over the years, all the great sages of the various immortal realms had gone into seclusion because of the arrival of the Inspector. The so-called immortal realms had also disappeared overnight. As the son of great sage Kuan-Pung Wuyu should have enjoyed supreme glory in the Kuan-Pung sacred ground. However, as great sage Kuan-Pung had gone into seclusion, his status had plummeted. Those who had tried to curry favor with him in the past had now treated him as an ordinary Dharma characteristic realm cultivator. Kuan-Pung Wuyu was happy to see this. Apart from cultivating in seclusion, he would travel around whenever he encountered a bottleneck. Today, he saw great sage Xianzhen return as soon as he arrived at the Wang family's ancestral city. Immediately after, Kuan-Pung Wuyu's gaze swept across great sage Xianzhen, Gu Miaoxian, the third Ming prince, Yuan Venerate Slayer Immortal, and Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse before finally stopping on Ning Qi. This was mainly because Ning Qi's 5-meter-tall body stood out among the crowd. Kuan-Pung Wuyu's eyes flickered as he subconsciously took a step forward and tried to get a closer look at Ning Qi's face. "Oh, so you're great sage Xianzhen, the former family head of the Wang family." The female cultivator was slightly taken aback. Then, the corners of her lips curled up and a sinister smile appeared on her face. She heaved a sigh of relief after knowing the identity of great sage Xianzhen. She had initially thought that this group of people might have been sent by the enemies of their master. However, the former family head of the Wang family was no different from an aunt to them. "All of you don't have to leave today. Lord Divine Venerate will definitely be very happy to send all of you to the Tao Expansion Immortal City." The female cultivator smiled faintly. A moment later, she suddenly made a move. Boundless power of creation surged out of her body continuously. The group of people standing around Ning Qi also made a move in unison, as if they had discussed this beforehand and had a tacit understanding. From the beginning to the end, Yuan Venerate Slayer Immortal and the others had no intention of making a move. They had faint smiles on their faces. In their eyes, this group of people was already dead. Boom! An extremely violent aura swept out from great sage Xuanzhen's body. He didn't even need to make a move. This aura was enough to make the female cultivator and the other cultivators kneel on the ground. One by one, they were shocked and looked at great sage Xuanzhen in disbelief. Chapter 2054. Sucked dry. Yuan Venerate? How is that possible? How could Wang Xuanzhen be a Yuan Venerate? The female cultivator stared at great sage Xianzhen in horror. How many Yuan Venerates had appeared in the entire central mainland in so many years? Not to mention Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer, Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse, and even Yuan Venerate Songji had died at the hands of Yuan Venerate Beixian. Since then, there had been very few Yuan Venerates in the central mainland. How could a mere Dharma characteristic cultivator from the Green Dragon mainland become a 9-tribulation creator in the blink of an eye? The cultivators standing outside the Wang family were also shocked when they sensed the aura of great sage Xianzhen. What a powerful aura! I didn't expect great sage Xianzhen to return with such a high cultivation base after disappearing for thousands of years. Even the disciples of the supervisor envoy can't stand straight in front of him. How terrifying! Could his strength have reached the level of the supervisor envoy and become a legendary immortal king? Looks like a bloody battle is inevitable in the Wang family's ancestral city today. Could great sage Xianzhen have returned this time because of Yuan Venerate Beixian? No matter how strong he is, how strong can he be? Yuan Venerate Beixian has already been imprisoned in the immortal prison by the Dao Yen, immortal emperor. Can he kill Dao Yen, immortal emperor, to seek revenge? Great sage Xianzhen's current strength had indeed shocked these cultivators. However, they still didn't think great sage Xianzhen would win. After all, the Wang family had offended a supreme existence that dominated this realm. Rumor had it that Dao Yen, immortal emperor, had already taken the second step, and even Yuan Venerate powerhouses wouldn't be a match for him. Kuan Pengwu was one of the cultivators present who understood great sage Xianzhen better. After all, his father was the Kuan Peng great sage. Kuan Pengwu would occasionally follow him when he talked with great sage Xianzhen. He was extremely sure that great sage Xianzhen's cultivation base back then was only slightly higher than his father's. Now, not only had great sage Xianzhen broken through to the creation realm, but his aura was also very terrifying. He was definitely not an ordinary creator. Wasn't this cultivation speed too terrifying? Rumor has it that great sage Xianzhen went missing when he entered the void domain. Could there be such a great opportunity in the void domain? But why hasn't anyone obtained it before? If one wanted to break through to the creation realm in the central mainland, they basically had to go to the void realm. This was also the direction that Kuan Pengwu would work towards in the future. Now that Kuan Pengwu had seen the terrifying aura of the great sage Xianzhen, he was looking forward to the void realm even more. You're not Wang Xuanzhen. It's impossible for him to be as strong as you are. Who the hell are you? The female cultivator raised her head with difficulty and said. Although she was completely suppressed by the aura of the great sage Xianzhen, she did not feel much fear in her heart. No matter what, her master was a celestial king under the command of the ultimate god. Unless the other party wanted to start a war with the Dao Yen celestial emperor, he would not dare to kill. Great sage Xianzhen, don't talk nonsense with this little girl. Why don't I help you capture those guys who are spying on us and teach them a lesson before sending them on their way? Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse chuckled as he glanced into the distance. There, 3 pairs of eyes were watching them. This is a matter of the Wang family. There is no need to trouble Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse. Wang Xuanzhen smiled. Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse? Did I hear it wrong? How did great sage Xianzhen address that guy just now? It does seem to be Yuan Venerate Devil Corp. Could it be Yuan Venerate Devil Stone? No, how could there be a Yuan Venerate Devil Stone in the central mainland? It can't be. Could this person be Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse, who was suppressed in the immortal prison decades ago? How is that possible? I have never heard of anyone coming out of the immortal prison. Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse? Gasp. The surrounding cultivators gasped and looked at Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse in disbelief. Kuan Pengwu's expression changed as he turned pale with fright. However, his gaze landed on Ning Qi and all the doubts in his heart were cleared up at that moment. It's him. It's really him. He's back, Kuan Pengwu mumbled to himself. There was a hint of excitement in his tone. Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse? The female cultivator cried out involuntarily. Even the pitch of her voice had changed. She turned to look at Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse, and a look of extreme fear appeared on her face. This face was becoming more and more similar to the face that had appeared in her mind. When the two faces gradually matched, the female cultivator's body couldn't help but tremble violently. In the depths of the Wang family, 3 figures standing side by side were stunned. He is Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse? It looks like it, but Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse stayed in the 9 desolations. I only saw him from afar when the Dao Yen Immortal Lord suppressed him, so I'm not too sure. That's impossible. Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse has already been thrown into the immortal prison. His bones are probably rotten. How could he appear here? However, the cultivation of these guys is indeed very strong. The 3 of us aren't a match for them even if we join forces. Fortunately, the news has already spread. It won't be long before the other side receives the news. We just need to delay for a while. Oh, my identity has been exposed. Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse rubbed his nose and looked at Ning Qi. When he saw Ning Qi nod slightly, he immediately grinned and disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was holding 3 people tightly in his hands and throwing them at his feet. The auras of the 3 people were very weak. Their heads were already swollen, and they were coughing up large mouthfuls of blood. Their swollen eyes opened a slit as they looked at Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse in horror. They had originally wanted to delay for a while, but they had never expected that the other party would disregard the Dao Yen Immortal Lord behind them and attack them directly. Wasn't he a little too bold? Master! The female cultivator and the other cultivators around her exclaimed when they saw the 3 of them. Inspector! It's the 3 inspectors! The surrounding cultivators were dumbfounded as they watched this scene. In an instant, the scene became extremely quiet. Even the sound of breathing was so weak that it couldn't be heard. Dignified immortal king existences had been reduced to such a state in the blink of an eye before they had even seen anything? You. Who the hell are you? The 3 of us are immortal kings under the ultimate god. Don't make a mistake. One of them said with difficulty. Great Sage Xianzhen, how should we deal with these 3 people? Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse didn't ask for Ning Qi's opinion. Instead, he looked at Great Sage Xianzhen. Great Sage Xianzhen said expressionlessly, I heard that your cultivation technique requires essence blood to cultivate. I'll leave these 3 to you. If that's the case, many thanks. Chapter 2055. Yu Ting Immortal, no. The 3 of them were horrified to find that the blood essence in their bodies was being continuously sucked away by a terrifying suction force. They panicked and cried out for mercy. Master! Seeing the miserable state the 3 of them were in, their disciples were horrified, but they were still suppressed to the ground by the aura of the great sage Xianzhen and couldn't move. They could only watch helplessly as the 3 of them turned into dried corpses in front of everyone. Their deaths were hideous and terrifying, and their hands grabbed at the void as if they wanted to grab the last bit of hope left in the world. The surrounding cultivators were indescribably shocked when they saw the 3 immortal kings die in front of them. They had gotten used to living under the watchful eyes of the 3 supervisor envoys over the years. Now, the supervisor envoys, who had an extremely high status in their hearts and had an extremely powerful cultivation base, had been sucked dry by Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse like a dead dog. The shock they felt was immense. There's no need to keep these fellas. Please enjoy them, Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse. Great Sage Xuanzhen glanced indifferently at the group of cultivators in front of him and said faintly, No, don't kill us. If you dare to kill us, the Divine Lord will not let you go. Shrill howls resounded. In an instant, all these cultivators had turned into dried corpses. At the same time, Yuan Venerate Slayer attacked as well. Along with a wave of shrill cries, all the cultivators from Dao Expansion Immortal City within the Wang family's territory perished. The spectating cultivators were horrified and regretful. If they had known this would happen, they would have left this place. Now that the people of the 3 inspectors were dead, they would seem guilty if they left now and might end up like the cultivators who had died at the hands of Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse. Ning Qi had been observing the expression of the great sage of Xuanzhen. His eyes occasionally showed a hint of thoughtfulness, and his brows were tangled. But it seemed that his memory had not loosened, and he could not remember what happened in the past. Perhaps the devil Qi had deeply invaded his sea of consciousness, changing his mind and memory. Deep down, the current great sage of Xuanzhen was no longer the same person as before. Yuan Venerate Beixian, are we going to kill our way into Dao Expansion Immortal City now? Or Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse looked at Ning Qi with a hint of anticipation in his eyes. Since they will come to us, why do we need to make this trip? Let's just wait here. Ningqi said lightly. Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse was a little disappointed. However, since Ningqi had spoken, he had no choice but to listen. Then, led by Ningqi, Xuanzhen Great Sage and the others flew toward the Patriarch's Hall, the only place in the Wang family that had not changed. The surrounding cultivators heaved a sigh of relief when they saw Ningqi and the others leave. They looked at each other with some lingering fear before leaving the place one after another. Only a small number of cultivators stayed behind with curiosity and excitement in their eyes. These cultivators were usually very young. They had still been children when Ningqi and the others had been suppressed. How could they not be excited when they saw the legendary rulers of the Xian True Immortal Realm, Great Sage Xianzhen and Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse? More than half a month had passed since the 3 inspectors had been killed. During this time, cultivators kept rushing to the Wang family's ancestral city. Some of them wanted to pay their respects to Great Sage Xianzhen, while others wanted to see if the rumor that Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse had come out of the immortal prison was true. The news of what had happened half a month ago had already swept through the entire Green Dragon continent like a plague. Everyone knew that the 3 inspectors sent by Dao Expansion Immortal City had died. When the great sages heard this news, they came out of seclusion and rushed to the Wang family's ancestral city. Huh? The 3 inspectors are dead? A huge battleship floated in the air, and a group of cultivators stood on it. The weakest among them was at the perfected Dharma plane, while the strongest had the aura of a 7-calamity creator. It was a beautiful woman with a slender waist. At this moment, she was listening to the news that her subordinates had received. After listening to the news, she looked in the direction of the Wang family's ancestral city with a hint of suspicion in her eyes. The 3 inspectors were killed by Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse? Great Sage Xianzhen has returned to the Wang family's ancestral city? Do you think such a thing is possible? After a while, the woman said indifferently, Yuding Immortal King, none of the existences that have been suppressed in the immortal prison have been able to come out. If Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse really came out, the immortal prison would definitely have received the news first. How could they have allowed him to come to the Green Dragon continent? I think it might be the remnants of the War God Hall, the Wang family, or the Blood Abyssal race who are using the names of Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse and Great Sage Xianzhen to confuse us. Feng Yun Wudo stepped forward and smiled. He looked at Yuding Immortal King with a hint of passion in his eyes that was hard to detect. Wu Wei looked at Feng Yun Wudo with jealousy but didn't say anything. After all, he wasn't qualified to speak in front of Yuding Immortal King. Sunset Autumn Cicada, who was standing beside Wu Wei, had a face in her mind when she heard the news. Her heart skipped a beat, but she quickly came back to her senses. Feng Yun Wudo was right. How could an existence that was suppressed in the immortal prison by the Dao Yen Immortal Emperor return to the central continent? Yuding Immortal King, I think so too. However, there's no point in speculating here. Why don't we go and take a look and see who is so bold as to make a move on the inspectors sent by the Divine Venerate? A young cultivator whose appearance was not inferior to Feng Wudao and whose physique was even better said with a smile. Among the cultivators present, his aura was second only to Yuding Immortal King. He was already a 5 tribulation creator. Feng Wudao let out a cold harumph in his heart and returned to Twilight Autumn Cicada's side. Selfless true immortal is right. Yuding Immortal, the place we are going to pass by the Wang family's ancestral city. Since that thing has appeared, it won't disappear anytime soon. Why don't we take a look at the Wang family's ancestral city? The other cultivators agreed. Let's go and take a look then, Yuding Immortal King said faintly. A moment later, the battleship was suddenly ignited in flames, and its speed skyrocketed as it sped toward the Wang family's ancestral city like a meteor streaking across the sky, leaving a trail of flames behind. At the same time, the news sent by the 3 inspectors had also been received. Yuan venerate devil corpse? I want to see who dares to impersonate him. Chapter 2056. The 4 Directions Move. Chapter 2056. Are Great Sage Xianzhen and Yuan venerate devil corpse really in there? How could it be fake? You just arrived and didn't see the scene that day. TSK, the 3 great inspectors, existences that could smash us to death with a flick of their hands, were sucked dry by Yuan venerate devil corpse in the blink of an eye. In my opinion, the immortal prison isn't that impressive. Even Yuan venerate devil corpse could come out. Do you think it's possible that Yuan venerate Beixian came out as well? Shut up. How dare an early-stage, Dharma characteristic realm weakling like you talk about the immortal prison? No one has been able to come out of the immortal prison since ancient times. Yuan venerate devil corpse couldn't, and neither can Yuan venerate Beixian. In a few days, you will find out what happens to those who pretend to be Yuan venerate devil corpse. In a restaurant half a street away from the Wang family's territory, cultivators were drinking and looking over at the Wang family's territory, occasionally expressing their opinions. However, a gloomy-looking young cultivator sitting at a table by the window snorted coldly when he heard the words, "Northern Mystic Yuan venerate." The surrounding cultivators were enraged when they saw this. However, they quickly shut their mouths when they sensed the faint aura of the power of creation coming from this young cultivator. Because of the young cultivator, the noise in the restaurant was much quieter. Before long, a few more cultivators walked up to the second floor. There were both men and women. When their eyes fell on the young cultivator, their eyes lit up and they walked over to the table and sat down. Senior brother, we all rushed over after receiving the news. However, 9th junior brother has important matters to attend to, so he shouldn't be able to get here in time. The few of them looked at each other, then looked at the young cultivator and said calmly, "It doesn't matter. The surviving member of the Wang family has appeared again. Rumor has it that he is Great Sage Xianzhen. If that's the case, we can avenge our master this time," the young cultivator said viciously. He didn't lower his voice or use voice transmission, so the cultivators in the restaurant could hear him clearly. Realization dawned on them. No wonder this person got angry when he heard about Yuan venerate Beixian. It turned out that he had a feud with Great Sage Xianzhen. That's right. Ning Beixian caused our master to end up like that. We will start with his patriarch this time. The young cultivator's junior brothers and sisters said coldly. What? Their master actually has a feud with Yuan venerate Beixian? All of the cultivators in the restaurant were shocked. They looked at these people with fear in their eyes. An entity that could become enemies with Yuan venerate Beixian was definitely no ordinary entity. The disciple of such an entity would at least be a 3 or 5 tribulation creator, right? That was already an existence extremely close to the immortal king realm. When they thought up to here, many cultivators got up and left successively, and they didn't dare stay here any longer. Actually, they were wrong. None of the cultivators at the table had a cultivation lower than 7th tribulation. That young cultivator even exuded the aura of an 8th tribulation creator. However, to Dharma characteristic realm cultivators, it was very difficult to determine the young cultivator's true cultivation from this aura. Another few days passed. Father, Kuan Peng Wu, you stood in front of Kuan Peng Great Sage and bowed respectfully. Is the news true? Kuan Peng Great Sage asked solemnly. Kuan Peng Wu Yu's lips moved slightly as he recounted everything he had seen and heard. At the same time, he also included his own speculations. Kuan Peng Great Sage was even more shocked. After a while, he hesitated. If your guess is right, I'm afraid it won't be long before Dao Yan's Celestial Lord comes here again. When that time comes, a great battle will be inevitable. We can't stay in the Green Dragon mainland any longer. The Kuan Ping race should find a celestial dynasty to cultivate in seclusion. Why should we leave? The Green Dragon mainland is the birthplace of the Kuan Ping race. It is rumored that our patriarch came from outer space and landed here. If we give up so easily, how can we face our patriarch? Kuan Ping Wu Yu shook his head. Over the years, his cultivation had gotten stronger and stronger. Gradually, he could already express his opinions without being scolded when communicating with Kuan Ping Great Sage. If we don't leave, I'm afraid we will be implicated, Kuan Ping Great Sage said faintly as he glanced at the Wang family. Father, haven't you thought about it? If my guess is correct, why did he come back? Why didn't he hide after coming back? Kuan Ping Wu Yu's lips curled up slightly. You mean, he feels that he has enough strength to fight against Dao Yan's Celestial Emperor? Kuan Ping Great Sage frowned slightly. After saying this, he felt that even he himself did not believe it. He shook his head and said with a determined look, the entire Kuan Ping clan will retreat from the Azure Dragon continent, leaving only a few elders to guard the place. Over the years, strange phenomena have been occurring everywhere in the Azure Dragon continent, and things are constantly breaking out of the ground. Back then, a broken blade killed dozens of people in the realm of creation on the spot, and in the end, more than 10 immortal kings appeared to suppress it. As time goes on, I'm afraid that these strange phenomena will increase. I've been cultivating for so long, but I still can't take that step. After a pause, Kuan Ping Great Sage looked at Kuan Ping Wu Yu seriously. But you can't die. You are the one who has the highest chance of reaching the creation realm in this generation of our Kuan Ping race. Father, please don't worry. When this matter is over, I will leave the Green Dragon mainland. But before I confirm that person's identity, I will not leave the Wang family's ancestral city. Kuan Ping Wu Yu said. Sigh. Kuan Ping Great Sage sighed and felt slightly emotional. My child has grown up and is no longer listening to me. Just when he was about to say something, their gazes passed through the window and noticed an extremely huge shadow on the ground. This is, Kuan Ping Wu Yu looked up with a serious expression. He saw an extremely huge warship floating in the sky above the Wang family's ancestral city. He could faintly see over 10 figures standing on the deck of the warship, and they were looking down at the Wang family's ancestral city coldly. Their gazes were like gods looking down at ants. All of them are creators, and they are not weak. Looks like Dao Yan's celestial city has made a move. Kuan Ping Great Sage's expression became more and more complicated. He was originally unwilling to come here, but when he heard from his subordinates that Kuan Ping Wu Yu was in the Wang family's ancestral city, he personally made a trip and wanted to bring Kuan Ping Wu Yu away. But obviously, Kuan Ping Wu Yu was unwilling to leave. People from Dao Yan's celestial city have come. I wonder if there will be a fight later. In the Wang family's ancestral city, the cultivators raised their heads to look at the warship, and their expressions gradually became serious. Immortal King Yu Ting has come as well? A wisp of pleasant surprise flashed in the eyes of the young cultivator, who emitted the aura of an 8 tribulation creator when he saw the warship. Chapter 2057. I'll make a trip first. Chapter 2058. Chapter 2058. Chapter 2058. A punch. In fact, Feng Yunwudo's calculations were very good. Even if there was any danger inside, he was sure that Yuding Immortal King would not leave him in the lurch because he was favored by the divine venerate. If there was no danger, he could display a fearless spirit in front of Yuding Immortal King and win her favor, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Unfortunately, no matter how good his calculations were, sometimes going too far was as bad as not going far enough. When the time came, the abacus would fall apart and all the beads would fall to the ground. For example, Feng Yun Wudo was currently in such a situation. He stared dumbfoundedly at the figures in front of him, and then at Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse with extreme fear in his eyes. That day, when Dao Yen Immortal Emperor had suppressed Ning Qi and the others, he had stood at the front because of his relationship with Meng Tianshu. Not only had he mocked Ning Qi, but he had also memorized the appearances of Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse and Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer. Now, the person in front of him looked exactly like Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse, so he could not help but be frightened. Feng Yun Wudo really wanted to turn around and send a signal to Yuding Immortal King and the others, but he did not dare move. Several suffocating spirit consciousnesses were scanning his body like devils entering a village. What about you? I heard everything you said just now. Who are you saying is deliberately mystifying things? Don't think that anyone will come to save you. They can't see us. Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse smiled. They can't see us? Feng Yun Wudo's face was ashen. Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse was not lying. The cultivators outside could not see them. Feng Yun Wudo's figure had suddenly disappeared as soon as he entered the Wang family's territory. Where is he? There's something strange inside. Yuding Immortal King's expression changed. Selfless True Immortal suggested, wait a little longer and see what exactly is going on. It might just be a smokescreen to confuse people. Then let's wait a little longer. Fu He nodded faintly. Wu Wei had a suspicious look on his face as he subconsciously glanced at Sunset Autumn Cicada. However, he realized that Sunset Autumn Cicada did not seem worried about Feng Yun Wudo at all. The corners of his lips curled up as he turned to look at the Wang family's territory. You look exactly like Yuan Venerate Demonic Corpse, but you're definitely not Yuan Venerate Demonic Corpse. Who exactly are you people? Why are you acting all mysterious? Aren't you afraid that the Divine Venerate will send Yuan Venerate entities to destroy your souls? Windcloud Wudao tried his best to calm himself down. Then, he let out a cold laugh. The threat in his words was extremely obvious. What about me? Yuan Venerate Slayer Immortal said indifferently. Feng Yun Wudo was taken aback and scoffed. You do look like Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer, but you are also in disguise. Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer exchanged a glance with Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse before shaking his head with a smile. If they are in disguise, then I am also in disguise? Ning Qi looked at Driftless Cloud with a faint smile. Windcloud Wudao was stunned for a moment. Ning Qi's 5-meter-tall body made him think that he was just a bodyguard. He didn't expect Ning Qi to suddenly speak. You are Feng Wudao scanned Ning Qi from head to toe, then burst into laughter. You're pretending to be Ning Beixian? Ha ha ha. What a joke. How could Ning Beixian be as tall as you? Do you remember when I said that I would give you a punch when I came out of the immortal prison? Ning Qi said softly. Feng Yun Wudo's smile gradually froze. A look of disbelief appeared on his face as his body started to tremble uncontrollably. Of course he remembered these words. Moreover, he remembered them clearly. Ning Qi had said these words through voice transmission. Besides him and Ning Qi, it was impossible for a third person to know these words. Thinking up to this point, Feng Yun Wudo felt his legs go soft, and all his strength left him. With a thud, he knelt on the ground. But in the next moment, he immediately reacted and bounced up from the ground. With a fierce roar, he turned around and fled. Where are you going? Didn't I say that I would give you a punch? I always keep my word. Ning Qi's abrupt appearance in front of Feng Yun Wudao scared him to the point where he waved his hand to strike. However, his attack couldn't even leave a white mark on Ning Qi's body. It was as if a 3-year-old urchin was using his own fist to pound on the incomparably sturdy chest of a strong man. Bang! Ning Qi landed a light punch on Feng Yun Wudo's stomach. His control of strength had reached the acme of perfection. Feng Yun Wudo didn't explode on the spot. Instead, He spat out a mouthful of bitter saliva and flew into the air before crashing to the ground. Currently, the difference between Ning Qi's strength and a second tribulation creator's was like an atomic bomb and a pistol. There was no comparison at all. However, Ning Qi was able to injure Feng Yunwudo without killing him. Even the third Ming prince couldn't help but admire him. He had rehearsed this many times in his mind. How could he make the ant in front of him feel pain without killing him? Unfortunately, every time he practiced, he felt like he only needed to flick his little finger and the ant would die. The third Ming prince was a little embarrassed. He didn't expect Ning Qi's control of strength to be so much better than his. Impossible, you're not him. He's in the immortal prison. He's already dead. Feng Yunwudo used both his hands and feet to crawl up from the ground. He once again tried to rush out of this place and escape. He felt an unprecedented fear. This feeling, ever since he was favored by the hierarch, he had never felt this way. Did I say you could leave? Ning Qi moved slightly and reappeared before Feng Yunwudo. He landed another punch on Feng Yunwudo's stomach. Blarg! Feng Yunwudo vomited everything he had eaten in the past few days. His body arched like a cooked prawn. Didn't you say you would only punch me once? Feng Yunwudo raised his head with difficulty. It's a punch. Looking at his own fist, Ning Qi chuckled and sent another punch into Windcloud Wudao's stomach. Feng Yunwudo stared at Ning Qi in disbelief. One punch. One punch. One punch. Feng Yunwudo was completely helpless against Ning Qi's punch. No matter what he did, he couldn't stop Ning Qi's punch. Even his creation domain was shattered by Ning Qi's punch. Yet, the punch wasn't enough to kill him. It only caused him excruciating pain. Just kill me. Feng Yunwudo howled in agony. He only hoped that Yuding Immortal Monarch and the others could hear him. Stop howling. They can't possibly hear you. Even if they hear you, can they save you? Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse said. Chapter 2059. Getting hit for the second time, do you know your mistakes now? Ning Qi looked at Feng Yunwudo with a gratified expression, as though he was a senior who saw his junior deeply recognize his mistakes. Yes, I know my mistakes now. Feng Yunwudo looked hopeful. He knew that Ning Qi had some friendship with the Twilight Autumn Cicada, so he might be able to escape with his life today. Then I'll forgive you. Ning Qi smiled. A Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse and the others looked at Ning Qi in shock. As far as they knew, given Ning Qi's temperament, how could he forgive this fellow? Thank you, Yuan Venerate Beixian. Feng Yunwudo was ecstatic, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. As long as he could leave this place alive, he would definitely send the news back to Tao Evolution's Celestial City immediately. Then, the Tao Evolution's Celestial Emperor would attack again and suppress all these fellows. Don't thank me. That punch was just an appetizer. Since you know your mistakes, I'll go straight to the main course. Ning Qi smiled. What? Feng Yunwudo looked at Ning Qi in shock. Divine grace. Ning Qi gave a light shout and slapped Feng Yunwudo's head. Reverse reincarnation, eternal emptiness. Feng Yunwudo seemed to have fallen into a time vortex, and his body shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. Just as his memory was about to dissipate, Feng Yunwudo roared at Ning Qi in grief and indignation. Ning Beixian, you're shameless. Damn it. He had finally broken through to the second tribulation creator level with the help of the Divine Venerate, but it was going to be burned again. Feng Yunwudo hated Ning Qi to the core. Including this time, this was already the second time he had been hit. Shameless? If I had known, I would have let you suffer more. Ning Qi smiled. Not long after, a chubby baby appeared in front of everyone. He looked at Ning Qi and the others with an innocent expression. Then, he opened his mouth and burst into tears. His voice was loud and clear. full of energy. It's that divine ability again. Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse and Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer were envious when they saw this. Ning Qi had used this mystic ability to turn Yuan Venerate Deer Swallower into a 7-colored deer in the past. Although the lethality of this mystic ability wasn't too great, its ability to change time left the two of them in the dust. None of the mystic abilities they knew could compare to the mystic ability Ning Qi had displayed. Profound Truth Great Sage and Gu Miaoxian were both dumbstruck. The former had lost his memories, while the latter had never seen Ning Qi use the immortal race's first-level divine ability, Divine Grace. Seeing a living person being beaten into an urchin with their own eyes was truly a shocking sight to behold. Yuan Venerate Beixian, how should we deal with this kid? Why don't we just kill him? Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse pointed at Feng Yun Wudo. Feng Yun Wudo looked like a 1-year-old toddler. He didn't react when Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse said that he wanted to kill him. All he did was bawl. What's the point of killing him? I want to see what he will become in the future. Ning Qi smiled. Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse smirked, as if he understood what Ning Qi meant. Something's not right. Feng Yun Wudo hasn't come out after so long. Could something have happened to him? Why don't we go in and take a look? I think we should wait a little longer. Selfless True Immortal smiled. Yuding Immortal Monarch didn't listen to his opinion this time. After all, Feng Yun Wudo was related to the Divine Venerate. If something happened to him there, she wouldn't be able to explain herself. Yuding Immortal Monarch glanced at Fu He. Fu He had been paying attention to Yuding Immortal Monarch's every move. When he saw Yuding Immortal Monarch look at him, he immediately understood and said to the 5th junior sister, "5th junior sister, go and take a look. Why doesn't she go by herself?" The 5th junior sister grumbled in her heart, but she still obediently flew towards the Wang family's territory. Another 2 hours passed, and there was no movement from the 5th junior sister. It was as if she had disappeared along with Feng Wudao. Even the cultivators in the Wang family's ancestral city felt that something was amiss. Fu He's junior brother and junior sister turned pale. One of them immediately said, "Eldest senior brother, something might have happened to the 5th junior sister. Let's go in together." He looked at Fu He with a hint of reproach. "Yuding, I'll be back soon." Fu He smiled at Yuding Immortal Monarch, then glanced at his junior brother and junior sister. "You guys stay here. I alone am enough." Fu He's junior brother and junior sister were obviously very confident in Fu He. They nodded and watched as Fu He flew into the sky and flew into the Wang family's territory. After Fu He left, there was no more news. Everyone stood on the battleship and waited from day to night, then from night to day. For a whole day and night, Fu He didn't show up again. At this point, even the stupidest person knew what had happened. Why hasn't senior brother come out yet? There's no movement from 5th senior sister either. Fu He's junior brother and junior sister were a little anxious. Great Sage Xianzhen and the others didn't leave. They're waiting for these guys to come and test us one by one so that they can take them down in one go? Yes, it's very likely that's the case. The 3 creators disappeared without a sound, not even a scream was heard. I'm afraid they're dead. Hiss, everyone looked at each other and gasped. It seemed that Great Sage Xianzhen had already made it clear that he wanted to be irreconcilable with Dao Yan's Celestial Emperor. "Father, what do you think?" Kuan-Peng Wu Yu looked at Great Sage Kuan-Peng with a faint smile. Great Sage Kuan-Peng frowned and looked in the direction of the Wang family's territory. A trace of suspicion rose in his heart. Could it be that his son had guessed all this correctly? On the battleship, Fu He's junior brother and junior sister were already a little impatient. However, they knew that their cultivation levels were much lower than Fu He's. If even Fu He was affected, they would probably end up the same if they entered the Wang family's territory. Therefore, they all looked at Immortal Monarch Yu Ting. At this moment, she was the one with the highest cultivation level among everyone. Senior inside, I wonder if you can show yourself? Immortal monarch Yu Ting looked at the Wang family's territory and opened her red lip. Her voice spread throughout the Wang family's ancestral city under the influence of the power of creation. Everyone could hear her clearly, but it didn't seem abrupt. Silence. There was no movement in the Wang family's territory. It was as if the wind had stopped. The leaves inside were motionless, and there were no birds or insects. When the cultivators noticed this scene, they could already conclude that the Wang family's territory had become a killing formation. Since Senior is unwilling to meet me, I will wait here. Chapter 2060. You have 5 breaths. Chapter 2061. Who was the one who unleashed this attack? Pft. Cultivators below the Transcendence realm in the Wang clan's ancestral city spat out a mouthful of blood due to the impact of the voice that contained the power of creation. Their faces turned deathly pale. Although the Transcendence realm cultivators were not as miserable, their minds were still shaken by the voice. Their blood and chi surged continuously as they looked at Immortal King Li Tian and Immortal King Kuan Peng with fear. This is the power of an immortal king. Just the voice of an immortal king is enough to kill us. It's too terrifying. How can a human cultivate to this level? How mysterious is the creation realm? If I can touch this realm in my life, I will die without regrets. Kuan Peng Great Sage and Immortal King Kuan Peng didn't look too good either. However, they were not ordinary Transcendence realm cultivators. In just 3 breaths' time, their surging blood and chi had calmed down. 5 breaths' time is up. Since you're not willing to come out, then, Immortal Emperor Li Tian's lips curled into a hideous grin. He slowly raised his right hand, and a vortex made of the power of creation began to rumble in his hand. The aura it emitted was utterly terrifying. Even the cultivators a few hundred zhang away were almost suffocated by the aura and were unable to breathe. Oh no! Not only is he going to destroy the Wang clan, but we will also be annihilated with this move. Run! Exclamations came from the crowd as figures soared into the sky and fled out of the Wang clan's ancestral city in a panic. Immortal King Qian Yuan's eyes flashed with a hint of mockery when he saw this. Such existences were no different from ants in their eyes. It didn't matter how many of them died. If it was necessary, it didn't matter even if the entire Azure Dragon continent was wiped out. Immortal King Li Tian is, Immortal King Yuting frowned slightly. She gently waved her hand and a light screen rose from the battleship and enveloped the entire battleship. Oh no, eldest senior brother is still inside. Will Immortal King Li Tian's attack hurt eldest senior brother? That won't happen. Big senior brother is also an 8 tribulation creator. Although this kind of attack can destroy this city, it's nothing to him. 5th junior sister is also protected by him, so she'll be fine. I also want to see, at this time, whether the rats hiding in the Wang family's territory will still be a turtle hiding in its shell. The 2 of you, Feng Wudao, whom the divinity favors, is also inside. If he dies, I'm afraid the divinity will not be pleased. Yuting Immortal King transmitted her voice. Wu Wei looked at this scene with a faint smile. He wasn't anxious at all, but a hint of hesitation flashed through Sunset Autumn Cicada's eyes. Feng Yun Wudao was her husband, and the 2 of them should have had feelings for each other. However, over the years, she felt that Feng Yun Wudao had become more and more distant, especially after he gained the hierarch's favor and broke through to become a 2nd tribulation creator. Feng Yun Wudao had never taken her words to heart and was extremely cold to her. Should I be worried about him? Sunset Autumn Cicada asked herself, and the correct answer was, yes. But Sunset Autumn Cicada knew that she wasn't worried about Drifting Cloud at all. It was as if the person in the Wang family's territory was a stranger and not her husband. Drifting cloud? Ha ha, Yuding Immortal King, do you think someone who impersonates Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse or Drifting Cloud is more important? Everyone knows that Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse conspired with Ning Beixian to seize the central continent. The divinity already hates them to the core. Whoever dares to impersonate Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse and cause trouble for the divinity will naturally be killed one by one. Don't worry, the divinity will not blame us for this. Heaven Essence Immortal King smiled faintly. Then, his gaze landed on Immortal King Li Tian and he nodded slightly. Immortal King Li Tian's eyes flashed with a trace of malevolence when he saw this, and he was about to throw the ball of air condensed from the power of creation toward the Wang family's territory. At the same time, a large number of cultivators had already escaped from the Wang family's ancestral city, but it was too late for even more cultivators. They could only use their various defensive methods and look at the ball of air in Immortal King Li Tian's hand with trepidation, praying in their hearts that they wouldn't be destroyed by the aftermath. At this critical moment, a blade aura suddenly tore through the air from the Wang family's territory and swept past Immortal King Li Tian and Heaven Essence Immortal King in the blink of an eye. After this blade aura passed through the two of them, it continued to extend for hundreds of feet and almost touched the battleship that Immortal King Li Tian and the others were on before gradually disappearing. A pitch-black blade mark was left in the void. This was the phenomenon of the void being sliced into pieces. Under normal circumstances, given the void's self-recovery ability, such a phenomenon would only last for 3 to 5 breaths at most before automatically disappearing. However, at this moment, the shattered void was still there even after everyone stood there in a daze for a dozen breaths. What happened? The cultivators who had escaped from the Wang family's ancestral city stood in the void and stared in shock. The cultivators who couldn't escape in time were also immersed in shock and couldn't react for a long time. This is, Great Sage Kuan Peng subconsciously glanced at Kuan Peng Wuyu and then at the Wang family's territory with a hint of shock in his eyes. It's him, this aura is definitely his. Kuan Peng Wuyu's eyes flickered with excitement. He couldn't help but clench his fists tightly. He was certain that the aura of this blade aura was exactly the same as when that person had broken through to the Transcendence Realm and slaughtered all the Transcendence Realm cultivators. The only difference was that the current blade aura was countless times stronger than before. Immortal King Yu Ting, this / true immortal selfless true immortal, and the other perfected immortals looked at Immortal King Li Tian with great astonishment. Before Immortal King Li Tian could speak, the mass of air in Immortal King Li Tian's hand gradually disappeared. His face revealed a hint of unwillingness. At this moment, everyone could clearly see 2 faint lines of blood appearing on the necks of the 2 cultivators. The lines of blood grew thicker as blood seeped out continuously. Subsequently, the 2 cultivators' heads drooped to the left and right and fell from the sky. Their headless bodies could no longer stand in the void after losing control of their heads. They fell to the ground together with their heads. Bang bang! 2 loud noises were heard. Immortal Emperor Li Tian and Immortal Emperor Qian Yuan, who were insufferably arrogant and were ready to destroy the entire Wang clan's ancestral city, were now lying on the ground without making a sound. Their heads were only 7 to 8 zhang away from their corpses. Their eyes were wide open, as if they wanted to see who did the slash before they died, who on earth slashed out with this saber. Chapter 2062. Chapter 2062. Chapter 2062 Run away, Immortal. Immortal King Li Tian and the others are dead? He's probably dead. There's no sign of life at all on the battleship. Selfless True Immortal and the others looked at each other. Then, they used their divine sense to scan the 2 corpses. In the end, they were certain that they were dead. A trace of fear appeared on their faces. A dignified 8 tribulation creator was killed in front of everyone with a single slash. Most importantly, they did not see the person who did it. This point was enough to explain everything. There were indeed 9 tribulation masters of creation in the Wang family's territory. Could it really be Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse? Everyone, including Immortal Monarch Yu Ting, had a hint of fear in their eyes. Immortal Monarch Yu Ting quickly controlled the battleship. The gigantic battleship rapidly retreated before the eyes of the cultivators in the Wang clan's ancestral city. Then, the battleship turned around and disappeared into the horizon like a shooting star. Ran away? The cultivators in the ancestral city stared at this scene with their mouths agape. Then, they all cast fearful glances at the Wang family. Meanwhile, many cultivators under the command of Dao Development Immortal City were still hiding amongst the cultivators of the Wang clan's ancestral city. They felt that their identities hadn't been exposed, so they didn't flee with Immortal King Yu Ting and the others. They were extremely shocked that Immortal King Li Tian and Immortal King Yu Ting had been killed with a single strike, but at the same time, they wanted to confirm exactly who was within the Wang clan's grounds. Let's break it up. During this period of time, let's not contact each other and do what we should do. Let's observe in secret first. Yes. Father, how is it? Who do you think is capable of executing that slash? Kunpeng Wuyu looked at Kunpeng Great Sage and smiled. Immortal King Li Tian and Immortal King Qian Yuan are 8 tribulation creation masters. The other party must be a 9 tribulation creation master to be able to kill them so cleanly. I heard that Yuan Venerate Bei Xian has a close relationship with Venerate Shi Lu of the Blood Puppet race. Could she be the one who attacked? Kunpeng Great Sage said solemnly. Kunpeng Wuyu was slightly stunned. There was indeed a female cultivator in Ning Qi's group, and he couldn't see through her cultivation. She must be in the creation realm, but if Venerable Snake Music and Venerable Python were to make a move, why would he wait until today? With her abilities, I'm afraid she can't even defeat an ultimate god. How dare she kill an ultimate god's left and right guardians? Kunpeng Wuyu smiled. Kunpeng Great Sage was lost in thought for a while. Perhaps his son's guess was right. Was that person really back? However, this was simply too unbelievable. An existence that had been suppressed in the immortal prison could actually leave the immortal prison? Ever since the great sage Kunpeng knew about the existence of the immortal prison, he had subconsciously inquired about it. He also knew that many 9 tribulations masters of creation had been suppressed in the immortal prison by the Dao Yen Celestial Emperor for hundreds of thousands of years or even millions of years, but no one had ever walked out of the immortal prison. Father, I have a suggestion. Kunpeng Wuyu smiled. What suggestion? The Kunpeng Great Sage was slightly taken aback. The next moment, his expression changed greatly, because Kunpeng Wuyu had already flown out of the window, heading straight for the Wang family's broken gate. This child. It was too late for Kunpeng Great Sage to stop him. He stared at Kunpeng Wuyu's back with a livid face, sighed in his heart, and flew after him. Who are those two? Why would he still dare to go to the Wang clan's territory? Aren't they afraid of death? Why do they look so familiar? Let me think. Many cultivators fell into deep thought when they saw Kunpeng Great Sage and Kunpeng Wuyu. Not long after, a cultivator gasped and said, "It's Kunpeng Great Sage and Kunpeng Wuyu. I didn't expect the two of them to come too." At this moment, Kunpeng Wuyu had already walked to the main entrance. He swept his gaze around and found the broken vermilion door among the ruins. Then, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Kunpeng Wuyu knocked on the door a few times and stood there silently. Kunpeng Great Sage walked over to Kunpeng Wuyu and sent a voice transmission. "Why are you so reckless? If today's incident spreads, the Dao Yen Celestial Emperor will definitely think that the Kunpeng race has something to do with them." Father, this might be the opportunity for the Kuan-Pung race to rise again. If we don't take sides now, when will we? Kuan-Pung Wuyu smiled. Even if the North Mystic Yuan Venerate returns, do you really think that the Dao Yen Celestial Emperor will not be able to suppress him again? Kuan-Pung Great Sage's expression was a little ugly. Yes, this is my intuition. Kuan-Pung Wuyu nodded. The surrounding cultivators had a strange look on their faces when they saw Kuan-Pung Wuyu's actions. What was the purpose of knocking on the gate a few times? However, they immediately knew what Kuan-Pung Wuyu's objective was. A figure suddenly appeared in front of the two of them and glanced at them coldly. Follow me. After saying that, he turned around and left. Damn it. How can you make me do something that only servants do? The third Prince Ming thought to himself unwillingly as his face turned cold. Kuan-Pung Wuyu glanced at Kuan-Pung Great Sage and followed. Kuan-Pung Great Sage hesitated for 3 breaths before following. All the cultivators gasped when they saw this. Was Kuan-Pung Wuyu crazy? No matter how strong the person inside was or whether he was Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse, he was just an ant to the Dao Yen Celestial Emperor who could suppress him at any time. Wouldn't it be telling the world that the Kuan-Pung race had a good relationship with the Wang family if they still went to the Wang family? What do you guys think? What else can we think? On the second floor of a restaurant, the Great Sage of Middle Land looked at Green Abyss Great Sage and the others. Other than Baxia Great Sage, Proud Dragon Great Sage, Pure Sun Great Sage, Kuan-Pung Great Sage, and Xuanzhen Great Sage, the other 2 sages were all present. Plus, there was one more person. It was Glass Dragon Great Sage. All 3 of them had seen the actions of Kuan-Pung Great Sage and Xuanzhen Great Sage, but they couldn't understand. Shouldn't they seek luck and avoid danger? Why did the 2 of them plunge into this muddy water? Why don't we go and take a look? Green Abyss Great Sage suggested. No. Glass Dragon Great Sage shook his head. He had finally regained his freedom and didn't want to be suppressed again after a few thousand years. Let's take a look. The Great Sage of Middle Land suggested. He had a good relationship with Xuanzhen Great Sage. If he didn't have to worry about the Dao Yen Celestial Emperor, he would definitely go to the Wang family to take a look. It's really Xuanzhen Great Sage, led by 3rd Ming Prince. Kuan-Pung Great Sage saw Ning Qi and the others. His eyes were first attracted by Xuanzhen Great Sage, but Kuan-Pung Wuyu looked at Ning Qi with a smile and bowed respectfully. You know me? Xuanzhen Great Sage was slightly taken aback. Kuan-Pung Great Sage was stunned. It seemed like Xuanzhen Great Sage didn't know him. This is Kuan-Pung Great Sage, one of the 7 sages here along with you. Chapter 2063. Chapter 2063. Chapter 2063 Fish in the Northern Sea, Friend or Foe? Xuanzhen Great Sage said. The faint pressure from his body made Kuan-Pung Great Sage shudder with fear. A trace of envy flashed in the depths of his eyes. Xuanzhen Great Sage, whose cultivation was almost the same as his, had actually reached this level in just a few thousand years. However, why did the Great Sage Xianzhen's memories seem to have disappeared? He couldn't even tell if he was a friend or foe. It's a friend, a friend. Great Sage Kuan-Pung smiled sheepishly. Xuanzhen Great Sage smiled when he heard this. He stepped forward and hugged Kuan-Pung Great Sage. He said, I'm sorry, there's something wrong with my memory. I can't remember you. But it's okay. Since I'm back, we can spend time together. Kuan-Pung Great Sage was a little stunned by Xuanzhen Great Sage's behavior. How could a person who used to be so cold become like this? Rock Wuyu, we haven't seen each other for a long time, right? I remember that you tried to kill me back then. Ning Qi looked at Kuan-Pung Wuyu with a smile and said, Yuan Venerate Beixian still remembers such a thing? Kuan-Pung Wuyu laughed. This guy had tried to kill him before? The way the 3rd prince looked at Kuan-Pung Wuyu suddenly changed. Even though Kuan Peng Wu Yu's current cultivation base was no different from an ant in his eyes, he decided to have a good talk with Kuan Peng Wu Yu about how he hunted Ningqi back then so that he could vent his anger. However, when I broke through to the Transcendence realm, you were the only one who didn't make a move. I really admire you for that. Ningqi smiled. Kuan Peng Wu Yu smiled upon hearing this. Yuan Venerate Beixian didn't kill me back then because of this, right? What else do you think? You almost killed me. Ningqi laughed. Kuan Peng Great Sage was horrified. He shot a look at Kuan Peng Wu Yu, trying to tell him not to continue this topic. What if the North Mystic Yuan Venerate got angry and killed the two of them? Almost killed him? The third Ming Prince's eyes lit up as he looked at Kuan Peng Wu Yu with a gentler look. However, on second thought, if Kuan Peng Wu Yu had killed this damned fella, perhaps he wouldn't be enslaved today. A trace of pity flashed in the third Ming Prince's eyes. All right, let's not talk about this anymore. Is there anything that the two of you need help with? Ningqi smiled. Kuan Peng Great Sage heaved a sigh of relief. He then looked at Kuan Peng Wu Yu, unsure of what his son was thinking. Stand in line. Kuan Peng Wu Yu said. Pick a side? Ningqi looked at Kuan Peng Wu Yu with a faint smile. That's right. Since Yuan Venerate Beixian was willing to accept the blood puppet race, he should be able to accept the Kuanping race, right? Even though the Rock Clan doesn't have a creator stage cultivator for the time being, in terms of bloodline, the Rock Clan's bloodline is nobler than the Blood Puppet Clan's. When our ancestor flew here from the Celestial Clan's mainland, his strength was definitely not weaker than the Dao Yan's Celestial Emperor. However, as time passed, the Rock Clan gradually declined. Kuan Peng Wu Yu said. This child, Kuan Peng Great Sage, stared at Kuan Peng Wu Yu in bewilderment. He actually wanted to lead his entire clan and rely on Ningqi? Wasn't this clearly making an enemy out of the Dao Yan's Celestial Emperor? Flew from the Celestial Clan's mainland? Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer and Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse exchanged a glance and saw a flash of doubt in each other's eyes. A clan that didn't even have a creator stage cultivator was claiming to be from the Celestial Clan's mainland? That didn't seem too believable, right? Unlike the two of them, Gu Miaoxian and the third Ming Prince's expressions changed even more. After all, the Celestial Clan's mainland was a taboo in the Immortal Incarcerate. Gu Miaoxian was a little better, as she didn't have access to too many confidential matters. She only knew that there was an existence that was completely opposed to the Immortal Incarcerate. However, the third Ming Prince was looking at Kuan Peng Wu Yu with an extremely shocked expression. When most of the demon race in the Immortal Incarcerate had thought that the Mirage Sea Tribe's Great War of Immortals performance was fake, he had already learned from his father, the Dark Serpent Monarch, that this had really happened. There had indeed been such a battle in ancient times. The reason why there were so few sky demon existences was most likely because of this great war of immortals and demons. Therefore, when the third Ming Prince heard Kuan Peng Wu Yu say that he was from the Celestial Clan's mainland, his entire aura became unusual. His breathing became even louder than usual, and he didn't even realize it. Yuan Venerate Beixian, you don't believe me? Kuan Peng Wu Yu looked at Ningqi. There was a fish in the northern ocean called the Kuan. The Kuan was so huge that it was thousands of miles long. It transformed into a bird called the Peng. The Peng was so huge that it was thousands of miles long. When it flew, its wings were like the clouds in the sky. Ningqi looked at Kuan Peng Wu Yu with a faint smile on his lips. He told them everything he knew about Kuan Peng recorded in the Carefree Roaming Manual. Gradually, Kuan Peng Wu Yu and Great Sage Kuan Peng were shocked. They looked at Ningqi in disbelief. How does he know so much about the Kuan Peng race? The Great Sage Kuan Peng was shocked. Even the perfected immortals, immortal kings, and Yuan venerates of the central continent had never known that the true form of the Kuan Peng race could change between a fish and a bird. This was a rule passed down by their patriarch. The Kuan-Pung race could only transform into a bird, and were not allowed to reveal their fish forms. Otherwise, they would be annihilated. Every member of the Kuan-Pung race followed this rule. Even if they died in battle in front of their enemies, they would never let anyone know their true form. If my guess is right, the patriarch of your race should be a well-known figure even in the Celestial clan. Ning Qi smiled. Yuan venerate Beixian, you know the origin of our race? Kuan-Pung Wuyu stared at Ning Qi in shock. I know a little. Ning Qi smiled. Yuan venerate Slayer and Yuan venerate Devil Corpse exchanged a surprised glance. It seemed like the Kuan-Pung race really came from the Celestial clan. I wonder if Yuan venerate Beixian. Kuan-Pung Wuyu was pleasantly surprised. He had never expected to receive such a pleasant surprise today. He really wanted to know what the Kuan-Pung race was like in the Celestial clan. This is all I know. I don't know anything else. If you want to know, you can personally head to the Celestial clan in the future. Ning Qi smiled. Are you sure you want to bring the Kuan-Pung race under my command? Yes. Chapter 2064. Stepmother. The great sage Kuan-Pung left, but his objective was to bring the entire Rock clan to the Wang clan's ancestral city. Because he was afraid that Dao Development Immortal City would send others to annihilate them when they found out about this. The great sage Kuan-Pung was careful, and he asked a few geniuses of the clan that were rather talented to leave the Azure Dragon continent and conceal their identities. He didn't allow them to show themselves for 100 years. As for the enmity between Ning Qi and the Dao Yen Immortal Emperor, he believed that 100 years would be enough to determine the victor. At that time, if Ning Qi were to lose, they would undoubtedly die, but if a few of their clansmen survived, they would still not be exterminated. Fangtsuan Mountain. The War God Temple, the Wang family, and the Blood Abyssal race had been in Fangtsuan Mountain for decades and were very familiar with each other. Every time someone left Fangtsuan Mountain to train, it was basically one person from the War God Temple, one person from the Wang family, and one person from the Blood Abyssal race. Every time Dongfang Haojie opened the passage, there would be at least 100 such teams going out to train. In order to avoid exposing the existence of Fangtsuan Mountain, these teams could not return to Fangtsuan Mountain, regardless of whether they were alive or dead. They had to hide their identities and live on under another identity. They had to blend into the various celestial dynasties and pass on information for Fangtsuan Mountain. However, there were also exceptions. For example, existences like Little Yuer and Zhua Ling could freely enter and exit Fangtsuan Mountain with the help of Dongfang Haojie. This was because Dongfang Haojie knew that unless a Yuan Venerate made a move, an ordinary Nine Tribulation creator wouldn't be able to suppress them. Taking a step back, even if they were to be suppressed, they would definitely not reveal the existence of Fangtsuan Mountain. At this moment, in the War God Temple, the current head of the Wang family, Wang Lin and his wife, the head of the War God Temple, Dongfang Haojie, the Blood Abyssal race, and Venerable Shi Lu were all sitting in the hall. They had received a piece of news that was so important that they had to hold a meeting. However, everyone seemed to be waiting for someone. Not long after, the sacred concubine brought little Yuer's Walinger Fang Qin and Fang Shu into the hall. Madam Temple Master is here. Dongfang Haojie smiled. Cold Sky Saintess smiled at the crowd, nodded, and then sat down in the seat next to Fei Yuding. According to the news from the disciples outside, Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse and Great Sage Xianzhen have appeared together in the Wang family's ancestral city. Do all of you think that this news was intentionally spread by the Dao Expansion Immortal City to lure us in? Dongfang Haojie said with a solemn expression. There was a hint of shock in Wang Lin and Wang Lin's eyes. They had been in closed-door cultivation for many years, and when they heard that Great Sage Xianzhen had reappeared, they were shocked. At the same time, there was a flash of joy in their eyes. Whether this news was true or false, there was finally some hope. I think the Tao Development Immortal City has already noticed that the disciples of our three clans have changed their names and snuck into the various immortal dynasties, and this piece of news is used to draw us in. Venerable Shilu said faintly. She was a 9 tribulations master of creation, and her cultivation was much stronger than the 9 serenities demon lord, so her words were naturally taken seriously. Madam Hall Master, what do you think? Dongfang Haojia looked at sacred concubine Cold Sky. Let Fang Qin and Fang Shu make a trip. They know you and their cultivation levels aren't high, so they won't attract attention. Also, the spies of the Tao Development Immortal City shouldn't be able to recognize them. Sacred concubine Cold Sky smiled. That's good too. Dongfang Haojia nodded. At this moment, a figure suddenly walked into the hall. Everyone subconsciously looked at the figure, and then their eyes were filled with surprise. Young Master! Little Yuer and Zhuo Ling ran toward Ningqi with surprise on their faces. Hall Master! Dongfang Haojia and the others stood up and bowed. Shock flashed in Venerable Shilu Er's eyes when she sensed Ningqi's aura. Then, she looked at Ningqi curiously. They hadn't seen each other for less than 100 years, but Ningqi's aura had already reached such a terrifying level? Although Ningqi's combat strength was strong back then, his cultivation level wasn't high, and he was far from the 9th tribulation realm. But now it was very different. Venerable Shilu judged that Ningqi's current cultivation level was at least comparable to those Peak Yuan venerates. Husband, you're back. Sacred concubine Cold Sky got up with a smile and walked over to Ningqi. Ningqi looked down at her belly. He hadn't seen her for a few decades, and her belly had bulged a lot. However, there was still a long time before the birth date. Ningqi scanned her with his spirit consciousness and found that the little fellow in her belly was full of vitality. A few decades might be a very long time for mortals, but for cultivators, it was only a few dozen days. Therefore, Ningqi hadn't been away for a very long time. His current appearance was no different from before, and he didn't have a 5-meter-tall body. This was because he had encountered a void storm on his way back from the immortal prison. Not only had the void storm not killed him, but it had also helped him completely refine the demonic qi in his body. Ningqi had only maintained a 5-meter-tall body because he didn't want to be recognized too early. That naughty fellow. Is he still in your belly and doesn't want to come out? Ningqi chuckled. Sacred concubine Cold Sky smiled and reached out to touch her belly with a trace of affection on her face. Then, Ningqi greeted Wang Lin and his wife, Dongfang Haojia, Venerable Shilu and Venerable Shilu before sitting down in the middle. Wang Lin and his wife were a little excited. Wang Lin took the lead and said, Bei Xian, there is news that great sage Xianzhen has returned to the Wang family's ancestral city. Is it true? It's true. Ningqi nodded with a smile. Dongfang Haojia and the others didn't find it strange. From the moment they saw Ningqi, they had already guessed that the news outside was true and that it wasn't fake news deliberately spread by Tao Development Celestial City to lure them. Wang Lin and Fei Yuding heaved a sigh of relief. Knowing that great sage Xianzhen was still alive was already the best news. However, Ningqi changed the topic and said with a wry smile, when great sage Xianzhen was thrown into the immortal prison, his mind was invaded by demonic qi. Now he has no memory and is no longer the great sage Xianzhen of the past. It is as if he has become a different person. Don't be too surprised when you see him. Well, he has already gotten married in the immortal prison. Wang Lin and Fei Yuding were shocked by Ningqi's words at first, but when they heard the last sentence, they were stunned. What did Ningqi say? Wang Lin couldn't believe it. His father found him a stepmother? Good grandson, what did you just say? I didn't hear it clearly. Can you say it again? Fei Yuding was dumbfounded. Chapter 2065. Chapter 2065 of the WAR Big Fish, Hooked. Wong Family Ancestral City. Why hasn't there been any movement from Tao Development Immortal City? The Divine Lord's 2 guardians died here, but the Divine Lord didn't show up? Is the Supreme Divinity afraid? Shoo, lower your voice. There are spies everywhere. If they hear you, you'll lose your life. The cultivators in the ancestral city were confused. It had been more than a month since the deaths of Immortal King Li Tian and Immortal King Qian Yuan, but there was still no movement. There was a teleportation array in the central continent, so they should have arrived at the Azure Dragon continent within a month. Have the people from the 6th Tao of Reincarnation sect arrived? They're here. They're over there. The 9 Phantasms Ancient Temple and the Mental Demon sect are here too. Groups after groups of cultivators entered the Wong family's ancestral city in a very low-key manner. They were the 6 Paths of Reincarnation sect, the Heart Demon sect, the Yin-Yang sect, the 9 Serenities Demon sect, the Battle sect, and the 9 Phantasms Ancient Temple. All of them were led by the strongest sect masters of their respective sections. Once they entered the Wong family's ancestral city, they immediately dispersed. The disciples below them dispersed, and only the 9 Serenities Demon Venerate and the others followed by 3 to 5 elder-level existences. Senior Brother Nightless, do you think Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse can really walk out of the immortal prison? Xiaoya had 2 junior brothers by his side. The 2 junior brothers seemed to be a little afraid. After they left, the 2 of them still followed Xiaoya closely. One of them couldn't help but ask. Impossible, Xiaoya said indifferently. When his 2 junior brothers heard this, they immediately heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts, and their complexions became slightly better. Other than the 6 major sects, the rest of the first-rate sects and second-rate sects arrived at the Wong family's ancestral city one after another. Cultivators who were observant noticed that the number of cultivators in the Wong family's ancestral city had increased several times over the past month. If one were to really count, it was likely that 70 to 80% of the cultivators in the Wong family's ancestral city belonged to the Dao Yen Celestial Emperor's faction. Gradually, the cultivators that belonged to the Dao Yen Immortal Emperor's faction weren't as terrified as they were in the beginning, and it was as if they'd found a large family. Their confidence grew every single day because they knew that the army of the Dao Yen Immortal City would arrive very soon. Some cultivators noticed that the horizon was dark, as if many people were rushing over. The army has arrived. Something's wrong. It's a disciple of the Wong clan. Everyone was dumbfounded. Tens of thousands of Wong clan disciples, led by the elders, flew into the air above the ancestral city. They looked down at them before flying back into the Wong clan's territory. It had to be known that the Wong clan's disciples were nothing more than leftover evildoers. They were hated like street rats that everyone wanted to beat up. That's the Dragon Slayer Guardian Wang Zhong. That's right. It is indeed him. I heard that he has a good relationship with Yuan Venerate Beixian, and the Hall Master of the Enforcement Hall Wang Tong. These elders of the Wong clan who have been missing for so many years have all appeared, along with tens of thousands of Wong clan disciples. Are they not going to hide anymore? The cultivators of the various sects watched coldly as the Wong clan disciples passed by them. In the past, they would have suppressed them without hesitation. However, the situation was different now. There was a mysterious expert hidden in the Wong clan's territory, and they didn't dare to act rashly before confirming the identity of this expert. This included the 9 Nether Devil Venerate and the other 9 Tribulation Creators. A few days later, the Wong clan disciples kept returning to the Wong ancestral city from the outside world, including the disciples of the War God Hall and the Blood Abyssal race. The originally quiet Wong ancestral city became extremely lively. Many cultivators saw the Wong clan disciples repairing the main gate and entering and exiting, just like in the past. Many cultivators who had stayed in the Wang ancestral city for many years felt a sense of familiarity when they saw this scene. They felt that the Wang ancestral city had returned to its original state. They are all back, just great sage Xianzhen and Yuan venerate devil corpse made them return without fear of being killed by the immortal emperor? Could there be a reason behind this that we don't know? The 9 nether devil venerate and the others gathered together, mainly because they were puzzled by the commotion here. Could it be that he has also returned? Six Paths' face was solemn. Did you say Yuan venerate Beixian? The eyes of the netherworld demon sovereign turned cold. When everyone heard this, they looked at each other and kept quiet. If Yuan venerate devil corpse can leave the immortal prison, then so can that person. However, the immortal prison has always been guarded by the immortal emperor. How could they leave the immortal prison quietly? Zhang Qing Kong said with a dark expression. Let's wait. When the Divine Lord and the others arrive, everything will be clear. The netherworld demon venerable said coldly. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. During this month, the Kuanping Great Sage had also brought the Kuanping tribe to the Wang family's territory. When the Great Sage and the others saw this scene, they were certain that the Kuanping Great Sage had sided with the Wang family. However, they were puzzled as to why the Kuanping Great Sage would take the initiative to get involved in this mess at this time. True immortal Deer Gate has arrived. True immortal Dark Night has arrived. True immortal Vast Sea has arrived. Hiss, one after another, the perfected immortals arrived with countless cultivators behind them. However, they had a tacit understanding and did not enter the Wang family's ancestral city. Instead, they stood in midair on their respective battleships when they were hundreds of miles away from the Wang family's ancestral city. The fluttering flags on the battleships allowed people to clearly distinguish the origin of these battleships. Dao Yen Immortal City has already made its move. It looks like it won't be long before the Divine Lord's main force arrives. There will probably be a huge battle here. We should leave the Wang family's ancestral city first. That's right. Very soon, the Wang family's ancestral city became sparsely populated again. All the cultivators left the Wang family's ancestral city and only dared to watch from afar. After another month, almost all the 300 celestial dynasties of the central continent had arrived. Apart from these celestial dynasties, the forces under the Dao Yen Immortal Emperor had also arrived. Thousands of battleships with countless cultivators were densely surrounding the Wang family's ancestral city. The other cultivators who had arrived could not help but gasp when they saw this scene. Could it be that the Dao Yen Immortal City had already confirmed that Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse and the others had really crawled out of the immortal prison? Not long after, a battleship that was several times larger than all the other battleships, with an even more terrifying aura, suddenly poked its head out of the void. Everyone's gaze turned towards this battleship, their eyes filled with surprise, shock, fear, and complicated emotions. The 9 underworld demon Venerate and the others flew up and landed on this battleship. At the forefront of the battleship stood a young cultivator. He had a sinister expression as he stared in the direction of the Wang family's territory. The big fish has taken the bait. Chapter 2066. Who the hell are you? Greetings, Divine Venerate and Yuan Venerate Hanfei. The Netherworld Devil Venerate and the others cupped their hands in greeting. This colossal battleship was extremely conspicuous among the numerous battleships. It was completely blood-red, and a faint red mist of blood was burning on its exterior. Besides 10X and Yuan Venerate Hanfei, the strongest divine army of Dao Expansion Immortal City was also standing on it. At this very moment, all the warship masters were looking at the tough donkey one after another. It seemed like they were waiting for its order. Those ordinary cultivators in the vicinity were so scared that they didn't even dare to breathe. The atmosphere in the surroundings gradually became tense. Are immortal King Li Tian and immortal King Qian Yuan really dead? Tenacious Donkey said indifferently. The netherworld demon sovereign came up and cupped his hands as he said in a low voice, I have already investigated, and countless cultivators saw that day. The two celestial kings did indeed die in the Wang family's territory. At this time, a battleship flew towards 10x and the others. Everyone was startled when they saw it. But when they saw the master of that battleship, they immediately understood. Many of the true immortals revealed a strange expression in their eyes. There was greed and adoration. Yuding greets the Divine Lord. The warship slowly stopped. Immortal King Yuding soared into the sky and landed in front of 10x and the others. She bowed respectfully and said, Immortal King Yuding, what's the matter? 10x slightly creased its brows. I was there when immortal King Li Tian and immortal King Qian Yuan died. Yuding Immortal King said in a low voice. Everyone was slightly startled. After that, they turned to look at Yu Ting Immortal King as a strange look flashed in their eyes. Immortal King Li Tian and Immortal King Yu Ting both died, but she was actually fine? Oh? Tell me the details. 10x snorted coldly. Yuding Immortal King recounted everything she had seen that day in a few words. Everyone's expression became even more solemn. Yuan Venerate Han Fei looked at Tenacious Donkey and whispered, Divine Venerate, do you think that Yuan Venerate demonic corpse really came out of the immortal prison? Bullshit. Tenacious Donkey snorted coldly. Yuan Venerate Han Fei's expression changed slightly, and he kept quiet. However, there was a trace of anger in the depths of his eyes. As a Yuan Venerate, Tenacious Donkey didn't give him any face at all. If it wasn't for the Dao Yen Celestial Lord, he wouldn't have stood there and suffered. The Netherworld Demonic Venerate and the others bowed even more. They could sense that Tenacious Donkey was furious. Otherwise, it wouldn't have disrespected Yuan Venerate Han Fei. At this time, whoever provoked the stubborn little donkey might die a very painful death. I don't believe anyone can walk out of a place like the immortal prison. That damned guy is trying to play tricks on us. Today I will make him reveal his true colors. The tough donkey sneered. No one doubted its words. After all, there were close to 300 true immortals here. Each true immortal had at least 10,000 subordinates, and the most was several tens of thousands of them. Tens of millions of cultivators could easily flatten the Wang family's ancestral city, let alone reveal the enemy's true identity. Listen up, you scoundrel inside. I will wait here for 10 breaths of time. If you don't show yourself, I will make sure you die without a burial ground. The tough donkey urged the warship to fly to the front and stared in the direction of the Wang family's ancestral city. Its voice spread in all directions under the influence of the power of creation. Basically, the voice of the tough donkey could be heard within a radius of several thousand miles. The cultivators nearby were looking forward to it. After waiting for so long, they could finally find out whether the powerhouse in the Wang family's ancestral land was Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse. As soon as the tough donkey finished speaking, a figure suddenly appeared in front of everyone. This person was extremely handsome, but he exuded a lazy aura as if he was on an excursion. He strolled forward without a trace of fear in the face of the thousands of warships and tens of millions of cultivators around him. How could it be him? The great sage of Middle-earth, the green underworld great sage, and the glass dragon great sage were dumbfounded as they looked at the figure. It's him? Xiaowie, Fuji, Zhan Donglai, and Yu Feng were all shocked. Their bodies couldn't help but tremble, and their hearts were in turmoil. It's him. How could it be him? How could it be him? Gasp! Almost all the cultivators present gasped as they looked at the figure in disbelief. The scene of the three of them being imprisoned by the Dao Yen Celestial Lord decades ago appeared in their minds. This face was exactly the same as that of Yuan Venerate North Mystic, who had killed Yuan Venerate Songji, suppressed Yuan Venerate Zulu, and captured the Divine Venerate alive. The ninth darkness demon Venerate and the others were horrified and took a step back subconsciously. 10x, who was standing in front of them, also turned pale. Wasn't it said that you unvenerate devil corpse? Why was it him? Ha ha ha. They were so scared that they didn't dare speak when the mysterious North Patriarch came out. Did you see the expression on that divine Venerate's face? What a joke. He was so arrogant just now. Serves him right. Now that the mysterious North Patriarch has returned from the immortal prison, his strength must have improved greatly. Perhaps after today, we will be able to walk openly in the central mainland without fear of being surrounded and killed. In the Wang family's ancestral land, many pairs of excited and admiring eyes were fixed on Ningqi. At this moment, everyone felt a sense of pride. Who the hell are you? The tenacious donkey woke up from its fright and roared at Ningqi while putting on a fierce appearance. Ningqi smiled and said, "Tough donkey, don't you recognize who I am? Could it be that in less than 100 years, you've already forgotten the days when you begged for mercy at my hands?" Gasp. It's really Yuan Venerate North Mystic. Unbelievable! Yuan Venerate North Mystic has come out of the immortal prison. Then the rumors from before are true. Was the one I saw really Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse? Doesn't that mean that Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer has also come out of the immortal prison? The surrounding cultivators were terrified. They had actually been in the same city as Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer, Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse, and Yuan Venerate North Mystic, the three most influential figures in the past hundreds of thousands of years. Compared to Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse, Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer was even more terrifying. Back then, his zombie army had swept through the world and conquered almost half of the central mainland. Almost half of the perfected immortals present had fought Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer before, but they had all been defeated. Impossible! You have already been imprisoned in the immortal prison by my master. How could you have returned to the central mainland? You are not Ning Beixian. Who the hell are you? The tough donkey screamed. Many cultivators noticed the fear in its eyes. At the same time, many more cultivators realized that the tough donkey's voice was trembling. This was obviously a result of extreme fear. Are you trying to stall for time and wait for your master to come and save you again? Ningqi chuckled. A moment later, his figure suddenly appeared in front of the tough donkey. The immortal race's cultivation technique allowed him to travel 90,000 miles in an instant. Chapter 2067. Chapter 2067. Chapter 2067. Brave man, so fast. The supreme divinity actually retreated. This, the cultivators in the surroundings first discovered that Ningqi had disappeared without a trace. Then, they discovered that Ningqi had already arrived on the battleship that 10x was on. When they saw 10x suddenly retreating, a huge wave was set off in their hearts. The expressions of the rulers of the various celestial dynasties became solemn. The tough little donkey was already the strongest existence among them. If even it began to fear the opponent, then how were they going to fight this battle today? It really is. Junior brother Beixian, Sunset Autumn Cicada stared blankly at Ningqi. Beside her, Wu Wei was already trembling. He subconsciously hid behind Sunset Autumn Cicada, afraid that Ningqi would see him. Yuan Venerate Hanfei, the ninth darkness demon Venerate, Immortal Monarch Yuding, and the others were stunned when they saw Ningqi appear less than 10 meters away from them. Then, their faces turned solemn as they stared at Ningqi in disbelief. The ninth darkness demon Venerate, Yuan Venerate Hanfei, and the others, especially, had fought Ningqi at close range decades ago and firmly remembered his appearance. Based on the appearance and aura of the person in front of him, he was definitely the North Mystic Yuan Venerate. He couldn't be an impostor. However, how did he, who had been suppressed in the immortal prison, walk out of it? The only exit of the immortal prison was under the suppression of the Tao Yen immortal emperor. Why did the Tao Yen immortal emperor not notice it at all? What kind of method did they use to be able to deceive everyone? Yuan venerate Hanfei, 9 darkness demon venerate, what are you waiting for? Attack and suppress him. The tenacious donkey suddenly let out a bellow, but it didn't have the intention to make a move. Yuan venerate Hanfei and the others were slightly taken aback and subconsciously exchanged glances. It had only been a few decades since Ning Qi had killed Yuan venerate Song Ji and the others, so they still had lingering fears about Ning Qi's combat prowess. How could they dare make a move? They're rebelling. You want to rebel? The tough donkey immediately became furious. When it saw Ning Qi looking at it with a smile that wasn't a smile and a hint of mockery in his eyes, it immediately let out an angry roar. Whoever among you can suppress this kid, I will report to Tao Yen's celestial emperor, and you will be heavily rewarded. The Netherworld Demon Lord and the others were not that stupid, and they didn't want to be this brave either. However, there was no lack of people with humble backgrounds, but they were ambitious. After hearing the words of the tough donkey, many of them became restless. These guys had never seen Ning Qi's combat power with their own eyes. They only knew about Ning Qi from the side, so they still had some doubts in their hearts. Moreover, they thought that Ning Qi might not be the real Ning Qi and was just an impostor. The eyes of these guys became even more fervent. Supreme Divinity, we've come to suppress him. A 9 Tribulation Creator led a group of 8 Tribulation Creators and 7 Tribulation Creators, about 100 cultivators. They flew into the sky and surrounded Ning Qi in an instant. The aura of this 9 Tribulation Creator was much weaker than that of the Netherworld Demon Lord and the others. Among the 9 Tribulation Creators, he should only be one of the weaker ones. Ning Qi glanced at him indifferently. He was unfamiliar. He hadn't seen this person before. It's the sect master of the Kanger sect. The Kanger sect that has a chance of replacing the destroyed Joyful Demon sect and becoming one of the 7 great sects? I didn't expect the sect master of the Kanger sect to be so bold. Could he be using this opportunity to gain the support of the Supreme Divinity? Hee. Don't forget that it's not that easy to get out of the immortal prison. I've lived for so long, but I've never heard of anyone crawling out of the immortal prison. This kid might really not be the North Mystic Yuan venerate and is just an impostor. If that's the case, the sect master of the Kanger sect will definitely become a favorite of the Supreme Divinity after today. One of the 7 great sects? I'm afraid the Kanger sect will suppress the other 6 great sections. After all, the Netherworld Demon Lord and the others didn't even listen to the Supreme Divinity's orders. The rulers of the celestial dynasties immediately determined the intention of the Kanger sect master and looked at him with a hint of admiration. They knew that they wouldn't be able to take such a huge risk for their future. Kanger? Very good. Suppress this kid for me. Your Kanger sect will be the #1 sect in the central mainland in the future. Tenacious Donkey sneered and glanced at the Netherworld Demon Lord and the others. The expressions of the Netherworld Demon Lord and the others changed slightly, but they didn't refute it. They just looked at Kanger sternly. Thank you, Supreme Divinity. Kanger was ecstatic after receiving Tenacious Donkey's promise. The cultivators of the Kanger sect were also ecstatic. They had survived under the shadow of the 7 great sects for countless years. When they encountered disciples of the 7 great sects in the past, they had to endure even if their cultivation was the same. Now, their bitter days were coming to an end. As long as they could suppress him, everything would change. The cultivators of the Kanger sect looked at Ning Qi with fiery eyes. If he is really the North Mystic Yuan venerate, I will be able to survive as long as I can hold on for 10 breaths with so many 9 Tribulation Creators here. Song Air glanced at Ning Qi and smirked. You are pretending to be a Yuan venerate Beishian and trying to mystify us. If you want to keep your life, you should surrender. What else can I do? Ning Qi smiled. Do you really want to force me to make a move? Kang'er frowned. Forget it. It's better if you don't make a move. Ning Qi smiled and made a grabbing motion with his hand. Majestic immortal qi gushed out of his palm and turned into a cage that enveloped Kang'er and the others. Kang'er was shocked. Before he could react, he realized that all the power in his body had been suppressed by the other party and he couldn't use it. Then, Ning Qi waved his hand and threw all the cultivators of the Kang'er sect, including Kang'er, in the direction of the Wang family. Boom! A loud sound was heard. When the dust settled, everyone saw Kang'er and the others lying on the ground. At that moment, Wang Zhong, who was known as the Dragon Slayer Vajra, flew out with the other disciples of the Wang family, each carrying a huge pillar, and hurriedly inserted the pillar into the ground. Then, Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse and Yuan Venerate Immortal appeared in front of everyone with a smile. With the help of the two of them, Kang'er and the others were hung high on the pillar. Kang'er wanted to resist but was punched in the stomach by Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse. His internal organs were shattered, and he spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with minced meat. Chapter 2068. Who could stop them? Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer and Yuan Venerate Demonic Corpse didn't leave after helping Wang Zhong hang up all the cultivators of the Kang'er sect. Instead, they stood beside Wang Zhong and looked at the tough donkey with a faint smile. When the tough donkey saw these two people, it was as if it had seen a ghost. At this moment, it finally believed that this guy in front of it and those two fellows had really crawled out from the immortal prison. However, what kind of method had they used? How could they hide it from its master? Thinking up to this point, the tough donkey's eyes gradually revealed a hint of fear. It looked at Ning Qi with flickering eyes. In the next moment, it didn't even leave behind a single sentence. It turned around and fled right away. With the effort of a wisp of smoke, it directly disappeared from the sight of numerous cultivators. Yuan Venerate Hanfei, the 9 Darkness Demon Venerate, and the rulers of the celestial dynasties turned pale when they saw this. At that moment, another battleship arrived with a burst of hearty laughter. Ning Qi didn't chase after the tough donkey. Instead, he flew towards the battleship. Senior brother, why are you so happy? Ning Qi looked at Alchemy Emperor Bodhi with a smile. Li Taiyan and Yuan Jun, who were standing beside Alchemy Emperor Bodhi, were looking at Ning Qi in the same way as the tough donkey. They felt as though they had seen a ghost. Why had the young Uncle Master come out of the immortal prison? What was going on? Of course it's because I'm happy to see you, junior brother. Alchemy Emperor Bodhi chuckled. I knew that junior brother wanted to go to the immortal prison on purpose. Otherwise, how could a mere Dao Yen immortal lord suppress you given your mystic abilities? As soon as these words came out, the tens of millions of cultivators in the surroundings sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Ning Qi in disbelief. Pill Emperor Pu Ti's words, could it be true? So Master already knew. Yuan Jun and Li Taiyan looked at Alchemy Emperor Bodhi with strange expressions. They had been sad for Ning Qi for so long. They had thought that Ning Qi would die in the immortal prison and never be able to step foot in the central mainland again. I really can't hide it from senior brother. Ning Qi smiled. Junior brother, did you gain anything from the immortal prison? Alchemy Emperor Bodhi asked expectantly. I saw your grandmaster. She's in the Wang clan's territory. Ning Qi smiled. Although he and Elixir Emperor Bodhi addressed each other as brothers, they had nothing to do with the previous generation. Therefore, it did not prevent him from befriending Yi as an equal. What? Pill Emperor Subhoodie's face was filled with shock. He subconsciously looked towards the Wang clan. Junior brother, then I'm going to catch that guy too. Ning Qi smiled and looked at the direction where the tough donkey escaped. His eyes flashed with a hint of mockery. In the next moment, he said indifferently, "Third Prince Ming, no one is allowed to leave today. You can kill anyone who leaves without permission." Got it. The third Prince Ming appeared beside Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse and said lazily. He scanned the surrounding cultivators with disdain. There wasn't even a single early-stage human demon here. How could such ants be worthy of his attention? However, the third Ming prince felt helpless at the thought of the golden hoop on his head. He didn't dare to object to Ning Qi's orders. Third Prince Ming? The surrounding cultivators were shocked at first. Then, they looked at the third Prince Ming and tried to guess his origin. However, they had never heard of this name before. The rulers of the various celestial dynasties, including the ninth darkness demon Venerate, Yuan Venerate Hanfei, and the others, had ugly expressions on their faces. It seemed like Ning Qi was going to make them all stay. Yuan Venerate Hanfei's eyes flashed coldly. He didn't act rashly. Instead, he glanced at the third Ming prince out of the corner of his eye and decided to leave after Ning Qi left. How could a fellow whose name he had never heard of stop him? Although Yuan Venerate Hanfei wasn't a match for Ning Qi, the tough donkey, or the Dao Yen Immortal Emperor, the only entity in the central mainland that could suppress him or be on par with him was Yuan Venerate Heavenly Gu of the Nine Desolations. Yuan Venerate Hanfei didn't care about anyone else. He didn't even believe that Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer and Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse had the ability to make him stay. Ning Qi vanished on the spot as soon as the third Prince Ming finished his sentence. The atmosphere was a little tense. After about 10 breaths, Yuan Venerate Hanfei smiled and told the ninth darkness demon Venerate and the others, "Everyone, shall we leave first?" The rulers of the various celestial dynasties looked at Yuan Venerate Hanfei. They could leave safely with him taking the lead. After all, Ning Qi had gone to chase after the tough donkey. In their opinion, they wouldn't be able to catch up to it without a few days. "All right." The ninth darkness demon Venerate nodded. "Leave?" The third Ming prince glared at Yuan Venerate Hanfei and said, "I dare you to try and leave." Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer and Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse looked at Yuan Venerate Hanfei mockingly. They didn't know the origin of the third Prince Ming, but they knew that the third Prince Ming was at least at the late-stage demon human. If he wanted to suppress Yuan Venerate Hanfei, all he had to do was say a few words. "I don't know where you came from, but if I, Yuan Venerate Hanfei, want to leave, who can stop me?" Yuan Venerate Hanfei sneered and flew into the distance. He didn't dare tear up the void and leave in front of Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer and Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse. If he was besieged by the two of them and caused the void to collapse, even he wouldn't be able to survive. The ninth darkness demon Venerate and the others also prepared to leave. They wouldn't be able to leave if they waited for Ning Qi to return. "Insignificant being, how dare you be so arrogant in front of me? Come back!" The third Prince Ming bellowed. His voice was like rolling thunder. At this moment, the aura of a perfected demon human was unmistakable. In an instant, the sky changed color and lightning flashed in the originally clear sky as if a vortex was about to form. "The sky law of this place wants to strike me?" The third Prince Ming had a grave look on his face as he immediately retracted his aura. The vortex in the sky dissipated and the third Prince Ming heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he made a grabbing motion in the direction that Yuan Venerate Hanfei had left. A moment later, everyone saw Yuan Venerate Hanfei appear in the hands of the third Prince Ming in disbelief. The ninth darkness demon Venerate and the others were still in shock. The aura of the third Prince Ming was too terrifying. It was even more terrifying than when they had faced the Dao Yen Immortal Lord. This was the reason why they were so shocked. Even the capture of Yuan Venerate Hanfei couldn't dispel this shock. How is this possible? How can his aura be more terrifying than the Dao Yen Immortal Lord's? Who the hell is this fellow? Chapter 2069. Who else wants to leave? I said that you can't leave. Why didn't you listen? The third Ming prince glared at Yuan Venerate Hanfei. Yuan Venerate Hanfei glared at Yuan Venerate Hanfei. Yuan Venerate Hanfei's eyes flashed. He didn't know what mystic technique the other party had used to grab him from so far away. However, he believed that the other party's strength was at most comparable to his. Therefore, Yuan Venerate Hanfei didn't reply to the third Ming prince. Instead, he turned around and punched the third Ming prince in the head. Bang! A crisp sound was heard. The third Ming prince glared at Yuan Venerate Hanfei. This weakling was really bold. How dare he attack him at this stage? What's going on? Yuan Venerate Hanfei was dumbfounded. He had used all his strength in that punch, which was enough to kill a Nine Tribulations creator, but when he hit the other party's head, he felt as if he had hit the hardest thing in the world. His arm immediately broke into pieces, but the other party was completely unscathed. The Nine Darkness Archdevil Sovereign and the other lords of the celestial dynasties, as well as the millions of cultivators present, exchanged glances with each other, and a terrifying guess appeared in their hearts. Could he be an almighty from the immortal prison? The fear in the eyes of the Ninth Darkness Demon Venerate and the others intensified. If this guess was true, the central continent would really change. A long time ago, some demonic beings had escaped from the immortal prison and been suppressed by the Dao Yen Immortal Lord, the Ninth Darkness Demon Venerate, and the others. The Ninth Darkness Demon Venerate clearly remembered that when a demonic being had died, it had looked at them mockingly and said something. In general, it had said that it was just an ant in the immortal prison and that there were millions of beings stronger than it. They hadn't heard it with their ears but had sensed it from the other party's soul, as they didn't understand the demonic language. Back then, everyone had scoffed at it because that fellow was already as strong as a Yuan Venerate. How could there be millions of cultivators stronger than it? However, now, the Ninth Darkness Demon Venerate and the others looked at the third Ming prince in horror when they recalled that demonic being. Who the hell are you? Yuan Venerate Hanfei finally realized that the third Ming prince was different from what he had imagined after seeing the mockery in the eyes of Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer and Yuan Venerate Demonic Corpse. Who am I? The third Ming prince smirked and slapped Yuan Venerate Hanfei across the face. This slap sent Yuan Venerate Hanfei flying into the air. At the same time, he spat out a mouthful of blood along with dozens of broken teeth. The surrounding cultivators were shocked and in disbelief when they saw this. In their opinion, Yuan Venerate Hanfei was already a top-notch entity. The number of people in the central mainland who were stronger than him could be counted on one hand. However, Yuan Venerate Hanfei was like a defenseless toddler in the hands of the third Ming prince. Before Yuan Venerate Hanfei could land, the third Ming prince grabbed his neck again. Then, who am I? Pa! Who am I? Pa! I am Pa! Pa! You King, tell me who I am. Pa! The third Ming prince glared at Yuan Venerate Hanfei and slapped him repeatedly. After a while, Yuan Venerate Hanfei's head was already swollen like a pig's head. His eyes were so squinted that he almost couldn't open them. Gulp! The ninefold darkness demon Venerate swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The surrounding 9 tribulation creation masters were similar to him. Tens of millions of cultivators watched this scene quietly, not knowing what to do. They subconsciously slowed their breathing, as if they were afraid that they would end up like Yuan Venerate Hanfei if they breathed too loudly. Tell me, who am I? The third Ming prince slapped Yuan Venerate Hanfei's face and broke his neck. The third Ming prince was slightly taken aback. He glanced at his hand and sighed. Indeed, he still couldn't control his power freely. If Yuan Venerate Hanfei's strength had been at Feng Wudao's level, he would probably have died from the first slap. I don't know who you are. Yuan Venerate Hanfei struggled to raise his hands and straighten his neck. He was filled with unprecedented fear. He hadn't even been this afraid when he had faced Ning Qi. This feeling seemed to have faded from his mind ever since he had broken through to the creator level. Now that it had resurfaced, Yuan Venerate Hanfei felt unfamiliar and panicked. "You don't even know who I am. How dare you run away?" The third Ming prince was furious. He had been suppressing his anger at Ning Qi's hands for a long time. He hadn't expected that even the weakling in front of him wouldn't give him any face. He hadn't killed Yuan Venerate Hanfei because he didn't want him to die too easily. Yuan Venerate Hanfei stared blankly at the third Ming prince. How would he have dared to run away if he had known that the other party was so powerful? This fellow was even more terrifying than Ning Qi had been. Ning Qi had taken a lot of effort to kill Yuan Venerate Songji back then, yet he hadn't even been able to retaliate, despite having a similar cultivation base as Yuan Venerate Songji. Upon seeing that Yuan Venerate Hanfei had nothing to say, the third Ming prince broke his limbs and threw him to Wang Zhong. "Hang him up." Wang Zhong soared into the sky and caught Yuan Venerate Hanfei. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. As expected of the mysterious North Patriarch, even a follower of his was this powerful. It seemed like the Wang family was really going to rise this time. Yuan Venerate Hanfei, who had once been treated like a god by the cultivators, was now being carried by Wang Zhong, who wasn't even a creator, and was being hung up on a log in the middle. The disciples of the Wang family were thrilled to see this. Dongfang Haojie and the others from the War God Hall, and Shi Lu and Venerable Python from the Blood Abyssal race were also shocked. The cultivators of the three families exchanged glances after recovering from their shock and saw the joy and excitement in each other's eyes. Alchemy Emperor Bodhi, who didn't have time to go to the Wang family to meet Yi, stood on the warship and stared at the third Ming prince in a daze. Li Taiyin and Yi Wanjun also gasped. This person's cultivation base is so terrifying, yet he still has to listen to young Uncle Master's instructions. The two of them were as shocked as any cultivator present. "Is there anyone else who wants to leave?" the third Ming prince asked as he looked around. "Leave? What a joke! Who would dare leave if Yuan Venerate Hanfei ended up like this?" The cultivators who had come to watch the show were fine, but the rulers of the celestial dynasties, including the cultivators they had brought with them, were so terrified that no one dared to act rashly. Chapter 2070. Capture alive, no one plans to leave, right? The third Ming Crown Prince smirked as the anger in his eyes gradually dissipated. This group of people before him was just a bunch of ants that didn't deserve his wrath. Yuan Venerate Hanfei was just unlucky to have bumped into the third Ming Crown Prince when he was feeling frustrated. Thus, the third Ming Crown Prince had no choice but to use him to vent his frustrations. The surroundings were silent, a tacit agreement. Immortal Slaughterer, Fiend Corpse, invite all the leaders down. They're standing too high up. I don't feel comfortable. The third Ming Prince said lightly. Yes. Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer and Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse exchanged a glance before soaring into the sky and scanning their surroundings. Are you all deaf? Do you really want the two of us to help you? Upon hearing this, the various celestial dynasty lords hesitated for a few breaths before someone took the lead and landed in front of the Wang family's ancestral city. Upon seeing this, the rest of the celestial dynasty lords followed suit. In no time, all the perfected immortals, including the netherworld demon Venerate and the other sect masters of the 6 great sects, had landed in front of the Wang family's ancestral city. They were less than 100 meters away from Yuan Venerate Immortal Slayer. Half of them had a faint look of fear on their faces as they wondered what would happen to them today. However, the abbot of the 9 Phantasms Ancient Temple and the sect leader of the Yin-Yang sect were relatively calm. Speaking of which, not only did they not have any enmity with Ning Qi, but they even had some friendship with him. Among the 6 of them, the 2 of them were the most relaxed. They did not have any burden on their shoulders. On the other hand, the netherworld demon Reverend and the others were a little anxious. Not long after about the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, a black dot suddenly flashed in the distance. From the time everyone discovered this black dot to the time it appeared in front of them, less than a breath of time had passed. Hiss, the netherworld demon Venerable and the others sucked in a breath of cold air in their hearts. Their gazes fell on the face of the tough donkey that no longer looked like a human. They were extremely shocked, and at this very moment, Ning Chi grabbed the half-dead little donkey. He swept a glance at everyone with a smile that was yet not a smile, and lightly tossed it away. Wang Zhong flew up, grabbed the tough little donkey, and hung it on the round log. The tough little donkey's injuries seemed to be very heavy. Even Wang Zhong, a materialization realm cultivator, could easily hang it up without encountering any resistance. From start to finish, the tough little donkey's eyes were half open and half closed, revealing a trace of perplexity. The Divine Lord! How did he get beaten up like this? It doesn't make sense. He escaped first and Ning Beixian took so long to catch up. How much time has passed since then? The ultimate god was captured alive. I'm afraid Ning Beixian's strength is even more terrifying than when he was suppressed in the immortal prison. Immortal prison, what is this immortal prison? Is it a place full of opportunities? The 9 Serenities demon sovereign's mind raced, but he couldn't imagine what Ning Chi had encountered in the immortal prison. How did his cultivation level improve so much in just a few decades? The tens of millions of cultivators nearby were dumbfounded as they watched the arrogant ultimate god being hung on the round log. There was still a trace of disbelief in their eyes. However, the truth was right before their eyes, so they had no choice but to believe it. The dignified ultimate god, who was second only to one person, was actually powerless against Yuan Venerate Beixian. Wasn't the central continent going to change? We shouldn't have come here today. Some cultivators had a look of remorse on their faces. Unfortunately, there's no medicine for regret in this world. Yuan Venerate Beixian hung the ultimate god up high. His motive is obvious. He is waiting for the Dao Yan's celestial lord. If the celestial lord arrives, the entire Green Dragon continent will be wiped out in the ensuing battle. I wonder if we can survive the aftermath. Do you guys think it's possible that Yuan Venerate Beixian can defeat the Dao Yan Celestial Lord and become the ruler of this world? We wouldn't dare to speak carelessly. Rumor has it that the Dao Yan Celestial Lord has already taken the second step. No matter how strong Yuan Venerate Beixian is, how can he be a match for him? Yuan Venerate Beixian, the abbot of the 9 Kshetra ancient temple, put his palms together and bowed to Ning Chi with a forced smile. Alchemy Emperor Bodhi, who was immersed in shock, finally regained his senses. His lips moved slightly as he explained to Ning Chi that the Yin-Yang sect master and the abbot of the 9 Kshetra ancient temple had helped them before. Ning Chi smiled faintly and said, "There's no need for the 2 of you to stand here. Why don't you come inside and have a seat?" The 2 of them had a strange look on their faces when they heard this. The abbot of the 9 Kshetra ancient temple hurriedly smiled and said, "Yuan Venerate Beixian is too polite. The 2 of us can just stand here. What a joke." If they entered the territory of the Wang family before the situation was determined, it would be equivalent to standing on the opposite side of the Dao Yan's celestial lord. If Ning Chi was suppressed, the 2 sects would probably be implicated as well. The 2 of them didn't dare take this risk. Ning Chi smiled and ignored the 2 of them. Instead, he glanced at the sunset autumn cicada. Wu Wei shuddered when he saw this, and a faint look of despair appeared on his face. "Senior Sister Autumn Cicada, come over for a chat." Ning Chi smiled. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless shocked and incredulous gazes landed on the sunset autumn cicada. Even the Yuding immortal monarch hadn't expected Ningqi to have such a relationship with the sunset autumn cicada. Senior sister? What was going on? The sunset autumn cicada looked at Ningqi with a complicated expression. She soared into the sky and landed in front of Ningqi with a smile. Junior brother. Beixian, long time no see. Fu He's junior brothers and junior sisters looked at Ningqi anxiously. They didn't know if their eldest senior brother and fifth junior sister were still alive. If they were dead, they might never be able to take revenge in this lifetime given the strength of Ningqi's side. It has indeed been a while. Oh, I have someone to return to senior sister. I hope you don't mind. Ningqi smiled. Someone? There was a hint of doubt in everyone's eyes. The sunset autumn cicada, Wu Wei, and the others suddenly sensed something and had a premonition. Not long after, Fu He and the fifth junior sister walked out of the Wang family's territory. There was a chubby baby in the fifth junior sister's arms, who was constantly crying. However, when he suddenly realized that there were tens of millions of cultivators staring at him, the chubby baby immediately shut his mouth, and his eyes revealed a trace of innocence. Eldest senior brother. Fifth junior sister, fifth senior sister. Fu He's junior brothers and junior sisters let out a long sigh of relief when they saw the two of them. At the same time, they were slightly surprised. In fact, they almost thought that the two of them had died in Ningqi's hands. Now that they saw the two of them alive, they couldn't help but be shocked. He is. Chapter 2071. Chapter 2071. Crippling one's cultivation, junior brother Beixian, thank you. Twilight autumn cicada smiled and took the chubby baby. Perhaps it was a coincidence, but the chubby baby was especially quiet in her arms. He blinked his eyes and even let out a giggle. Twilight autumn cicada looked at him with a complicated expression, then nodded at Ningqi, turned around and left. Seeing this, Wu Wei quickly followed. Seeing that Ningqi didn't suppress him, he heaved a sigh of relief. Junior sister, is this Feng Yunwudo? Wu Wei looked at the chubby baby in Twilight Autumn Cicada's hands with a hint of suspicion. Yes, it's him. Twilight Autumn Cicada nodded with a smile. Junior sister, what are your plans for the future? When he grows up? Wu Wei asked with a complicated expression. I will take him to a new place to live. In this life, he won't have anything to do with the past. Twilight Autumn Cicada smiled, then left in a different direction from Wu Wei. Wu Wei silently looked at Twilight Autumn Cicada's back. Then, he immediately soared into the sky. He wanted to escape from this azure dragon continent. This place was too terrifying. Several days had passed since Tenacious Donkey was hung on the round wood. During these days, Wang Zhong led the disciples of the Wang family to transport huge round wood and inserted them in front of the Wang family's ancestral city. The Netherworld Archdevil Lord and the other cultivators counted in their hearts. There were more than 10,000 of these round wood. It was like a formation, firmly inserted in front of the Wang family's ancestral city. Tenacious Donkey and the others were hung on the centermost round wood. As for the other empty ones, no one dared to think about it. They had already guessed that these round wood were prepared for them. It was just that the time wasn't right yet. This wasn't the most frightening thing. When Wang Zhong appeared next to Ningqi with two dogs, the Netherworld Archdevil Lord, the Archdevil Lord, and the other lords of the celestial dynasties were instantly alarmed. There were two human heads hanging on the necks of the two dogs. Many cultivators recognized one of them. It was Alchemist Master Blackwater of the Alchemist Alliance. At that moment, there was a hint of confusion on his face and his eyes were cloudy. Only when he saw Ningqi would he reveal a look of fear. It was as if his mind had been worn away and he was slowly becoming like a real dog. As for the other person, all the cultivators of the Deer Gate Immortal Dynasty recognized him. Lai Kong, the son of Reverend Lai Sun, who was favored by many cultivators back then, had disappeared for a very long time. Many people did not know his whereabouts. But today, when they saw his head suddenly appear on the body of a black dog, the hearts of these cultivators instantly went cold. A dignified heaven's chosen had actually turned into such a state. It was shocking and frightening. I heard that the feud between Lai Kong and Yuan Venerate Beixian started in the early days. At that time, Yuan Venerate Beixian's strength hadn't reached his current level yet. Lai Kong suddenly appeared at the Wang family's ancestral hall with a half-step creation-transformation cultivation base and killed Yuan Venerate Beixian's wife, Wang Shui. I never expected that in just a few thousand years, Lai Kong would end up like this. Hiss. I really can't offend Yuan Venerate Beixian. Lai Kong is living like a dog now. I might as well just die. What do you think will happen to the Kangar sect master and the divine Venerate? Will they end up like these two people? Yuan Venerate Beixian, I was wrong. Please don't kill me. Kangar finally couldn't hold back the fear in his heart after seeing the state of Lai Kong and alchemist Master Blackwater. He looked at Ning Qi pleadingly. The cultivators of the Kangar sect also begged for mercy when they saw this. They couldn't hide the fear on their faces. They felt extremely regretful when they thought that they might end up like these two fellows who were neither human nor dog. If they were given another chance, they would never have come to the Green Dragon continent even if a sword was placed on their necks. Shut up, Kangar. Aren't you afraid that my master will kill you on the spot if you beg for mercy? Tenacious Donkey suddenly opened its eyes and roared at Kangar. Kangar and the others immediately shut their mouths and looked at Tenacious Donkey in fear. This was simply making things difficult for them. If they didn't beg for mercy, they would turn into monsters that were neither human nor dog or would be killed by Ning Qi directly. If they begged for mercy, they would be threatened by the divine Venerate. What could they do? Ning Beixian, enjoy your last few days. Master must have sensed your existence and will come here soon. By then, you will die for sure. Tenacious Donkey glared at Ning Qi and cursed him viciously. You still have the strength to speak. How about? Ning Qi smiled and suddenly appeared in front of Tenacious Donkey before punching its dantian. Whoosh! A white light blossomed from Tenacious Donkey's body. Like a breeze, it swept across everyone in the blink of an eye. Many cultivators closed their eyes one after another to avoid being injured by this dazzling white light. In the next moment, they heard the sound of air leaking from Tenacious Donkey's body. The aura on Tenacious Donkey's body went from the peak of the 9 Tribulation Master of Creation to the 9 Tribulation Master of Creation, then the 8 Tribulation Master of Creation, and then the 7 Tribulation Master of Creation. It dropped one level after another. In the end, its aura was not even comparable to a Dan Battle Realm cultivator. You crippled my cultivation? You crippled my several million years of bitter cultivation. Tenacious Donkey lowered its head in disbelief and looked at its own body. Soon after, it suddenly raised its head and let out a hoarse roar. Its countless years of bitter cultivation and power were actually flowing away like water. The aura on its body was at most similar to the Qi refinement consummate realm. It could still maintain its human form. However, compared to its previous cultivation realm, it was still worlds apart. Even if Tenacious Donkey had previous experiences, it wouldn't be able to recover to the state of an ordinary 9 Tribulation Master of Creation without spending hundreds of thousands of years. Yeah, I crippled your cultivation, but I left a little for you. Do you want me to cripple all of it for you? Ning Qi smiled. Tenacious Donkey shut its mouth and didn't dare speak anymore. Wouldn't it become a mindless donkey if it was crippled? No way. It could still recover its current state in the future. If it returned to its original mindless state, it would probably really have to live like a donkey for the rest of its life. Divine Venerate's cultivation was actually crippled. This is too terrifying. However, you don't have to address him as Divine Venerate in the future. With this kind of cultivation, we can crush him to death with a single finger. The 9 nether demon venerate, the 6 Tao venerate, the Yin-Yang sect master, the 9 Kshetra ancient temple abbot, the various 9 tribulation masters of creation, and the cultivators they brought looked at tenacious donkey with a trace of pity in their eyes. Then, this trace of pity disappeared without a trace and was replaced with deep fear. Yuan venerate North Mystic, I was really wrong. Please give me another chance. Just this once. I will definitely stand on your side. Chapter 2072. The Tao Yin Immortal Lord had arrived. The Tao Yin Immortal Lord had arrived. No matter how much Tsang Er begged, Ning Qi didn't care. In the end, the third Ming prince thought that Tsang Er was too noisy, so he crippled Tsang Er's cultivation as well. This time, all the cultivators of the Tsang Er sect shut their mouths and didn't say a word. They looked at the third Ming prince with eyes full of fear. Tsang Er, on the other hand, had a face of despair. He was afraid that if he continued to shout, he would be killed by the third Ming prince. Yuan Venerate Han Fei fell into a state of deep fear after the cultivation bases of Tenex and Tsang Er were crippled. He would look up in alarm and fear if Ning Qi or the third Ming prince made any strange move. However, he heaved a sigh of relief when it seemed like the two of them had no intention of crippling his cultivation base for the time being. Yuan Venerate Han Fei decided to play dead for the time being and see what the situation would be like when the Tao Yin Immortal Lord arrived. Wang Zhong was very perceptive and asked the disciples of the Wang family to bring out many chairs. Just like that, Ning Qi, the third Ming prince, Yuan Venerate Devil Corpse, and Yuan Venerate Slayer sat in front of the tens of millions of cultivators, chatting and laughing. The surrounding cultivators could only stand and not move. Not long after, Great Sage Xuanzhen and the others also came out, followed by Wang Lin and Fei Yuding. The two of them were secretly sizing up Gu Miaoxian. Could she be Pill Emperor Bodhi landed beside Ning Qi? His eyes suddenly swept across a figure and a trace of suspicion flashed across his eyes. Miss Yezi, Alchemy Emperor Bodhi is your successor. You should only have him and me, the two martial nephews, left in your lineage. Ning Qi waved to Yezi. When she came in front of him, he introduced her with a smile. Li Taiyan and Yi Wanjun looked at Yezi in disbelief. Young Uncle Master said that Master is her successor? Then isn't she? Another Yuan Venerate entity? The 9th Dark Demon Venerate and the others were shocked when they saw Yezi. At the same time, the news from Great Sage Xuanzhen and Gu Miaoxian indicated that they might also be Yuan Venerate. How many Yuan Venerates did Ning Qi have on his side? Such a force was enough to sweep through the central continent, right? 1, 2, 3. Hiss. 6 Yuan Venerate. This isn't even including Yuan Venerate Beixian. This force would have been terrifying even during the heyday of the central mainland when Yuan Venerate Songji and the others were still alive. Among them, the third Ming prince is terrifyingly powerful. Yuan Venerate Han Fei was unable to retaliate against him. Perhaps the winner of this battle between Yuan Venerate North Mystic and the Tao Yin Immortal Lord might not necessarily be the Tao Yin Immortal Lord. Things haven't reached that stage yet. We don't know what the outcome will be for the time being. We just have to remember not to offend Yuan Venerate Beixian. Not bad. The Netherworld Demon Sovereign and the others communicated for a short while before closing their mouths and lowering their heads, waiting for time to pass. Immortal Prison Entrance. A figure suddenly appeared in the sky above the entrance of the Immortal Prison. When the 8 Tribulation Masters of Creation saw this, a cold light flashed in their eyes. At the same time, a trace of vigilance rose in their hearts, and they instantly surrounded the figure. This is the entrance of the Immortal Prison. Who is it, the Immortal Lord? They were stunned when they saw who it was. Why had the Tao Yen Immortal Lord suddenly come here? They subconsciously glanced at the side of the Tao Yen Immortal Emperor, and there was no one else. This meant that the Tao Yen Immortal Emperor had come here alone, and when he came in the past, he would bring at least 1 or 2 cultivators, or at most 5 or 6 cultivators, to suppress them into the immortal prison. The Tao Yen Immortal Lord glanced indifferently at the entrance of the immortal prison. The pitch-black entrance was wrapped in layers of array formations. After he confirmed that there were no signs of damage on the array formations, the Tao Yen Immortal Lord frowned slightly and glanced at them. Have there been any changes in this place during this period of time? Reporting to the Tao Yen Immortal Lord, there have been no changes. The 8 Tribulation Masters of Creation hurriedly replied. If there were no changes, how did they get out of the immortal prison? Why weren't they invaded by the demonic energy and turned into demonic creatures? The Tao Yen Immortal Lord's eyes flashed with a hint of contemplation, and his expression gradually turned ugly. He actually knew the immortal prison very well. If it wasn't for the fact that he was afraid of being invaded by the demonic energy and losing his mind, perhaps he would have chosen to enter the immortal prison himself a long time ago. Because there were opportunities and opportunities that could allow him to completely take the second step. No matter how you got out, since I can suppress you once, I can suppress you a second time. The Tao Yen Immortal Lord glanced in the direction of the Azure Dragon mainland, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. It had been less than 100 years since Ning Qi and the others were suppressed. He did not believe that they could improve much in these 100 years. After confirming that the entrance of the immortal prison was not damaged, the Tao Yen Immortal Lord tore open the void and stepped in. Then, he disappeared before the 8 Tribulation Masters of Creation. What's going on? Why did the Tao Yen Immortal Lord suddenly come here? The few of them looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. However, they could not figure it out, so they stopped thinking about it and continued to cultivate in seclusion. Guys, look, who is that? On the side of the Wang family's ancestral city, some cultivators suddenly realized that the clouds in the sky had started to roll continuously, as if they were condensing into a vortex. Their faces were immediately filled with shock. The Tao Yen Immortal Lord is here. The Abysmal Devil Venerate and the others were quite familiar with this scene. Every time the Tao Yen Immortal Lord appeared, the commotion was basically this big. They immediately heaved a sigh of relief, and a trace of anticipation flashed in their eyes. Since the Tao Yen Immortal Lord had arrived, the next step would be easy. The rulers of the various celestial dynasties heaved a long sigh of relief, looked at each other, and then vaguely looked in Ning Qi's direction. In the end, they realized that Ning Qi had a faint smile on his face and was calmly looking at the vortex in the sky, as if he was not anxious about what was going to happen next. Why? The Tao Yen Immortal Lord is coming, yet Yuan Venerate Beishian is not afraid at all? His confidence has actually reached this level? Could it be that he can really compete with the Tao Yen Immortal Lord now? Unlike them, there were even more cultivators, including those supreme geniuses, who were looking at the vortex in the sky with a trace of reverence in their eyes. In their hearts, no matter how strong Ning Qi was, it was impossible for him to be stronger than the Tao Yen Immortal Lord, who had ruled the central mainland for countless years. That was absolutely impossible. Yuan Venerate Beishian is going to be suppressed again. Xiaoye Duanmuchong, Yufeng, Fuji, Zhan Donglai, and other existences who had interacted with Ning Qi before had the same thought at this moment. Yuding Immortal King and the others also had a look of joy on their faces. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.